new Grand Prix year starts at the Buenos Aires Autodrome in typically fierce heat, with prospects of 1980 being one of the most hotly contested seasons ever in the long history of the Formula One World Championship. After a frantically busy, all too short 3 months of winter development, it's a very different scene at the Circuit Almirante Brown, for every team's got brand new or updated cars, and there's been a major shuffle of drivers. So, with 16 races to go, the 1980 World Championship's wide open. But 5 men from 3 teams in today's Argentine Grand Prix must especially fancy their chances. In the new T5 Ferrari, the reigning world champion Jody Scheckter and his teammate Gilles Villeneuve, who between them won 5 Grand Prix last year. In the Saudi Leyland Williams cars, Alan Jones, 4 times a winner in 1979, and his new ex-Brabham Ferrari and Lotus teammate, Argentinian Carlos Reutemann. And in only his second full year of Formula One, Brazilian Nelson Piquet, new team leader for Brabham in the new Cosworth-powered BT48. But after 2 days of practice, the shape of 1980's clearer. For there, in pole position of the staggered starting grid, it's Alan Jones. Second fastest, Jacques Lafitte Ligier. Third, Pironi Ligier. Fourth, Piquet Brabham. Fifth, De Angelis Lotus. Sixth, Andretti Lotus. And in 11th position, Jody Scheckter, the world champion.
Well, BA is a truly heartwarming place for the circus to start their season. They come out of the misery of a European winter and move down to the blasting heat of the South American summer. And the circuit is one of the nicest that they race on all season. It's varied, it's got nice fast sections, it's got a twisty slow infield, it's got plenty of runoff area, which means there's plenty of room to make mistakes and have a bit of fun. And above all, it's one of the few circuits that has fast enough straights to make overtaking easy, which of course then has a tendency to give us a very exciting race.
53 laps, and in the background, René Arnoux in the Renault goes into the pits, so he is not going to start with the rest of them in this long race of what's going to be attrition. When the green lights come on, away will go Alan Jones, and he does so. Jacques Lafitte alongside him, Pironi behind. Villeneuve coming through, and Piquet is in 4th position. Andretti is 5th alongside Villeneuve as they go round the right-hander, then into the left-hander, which leads to the long 5th gear straight, the fastest part of the course, which leads into the 5th gear curve on, and it's Alan Jones leading the 2 Ligiers. Jacques Lafitte, who won this race last year, is in 2nd place. Didier Pironi, who left the Candy Tyrrell team at the end of last year, and Arnoux is in the pits still. He came into the pits, he's yet to start the race, and Nelson Piquet on the left in the white and blue Brabham, a new colour scheme, is in 4th position. Alan Jones in the Saudi Williams, 4 wins last year, leads. The Ligiers are together with Piquet alongside them, and Piquet challenges. He goes past Pironi, he's up alongside Lafitte. Jones leads, Lafitte is in 2nd place. And
Villeneuve just went off. Villeneuve had moved up to 5th place or thereabouts for his relatively lowly grid position, made a great start, but he's overcooked it. I'm afraid he started his 1980 season very much as he left off. There it is on the replay. Villeneuve just on the left hand of the picture going out.
But already Alan Jones is building up a cushion between himself and the new 2nd place man, which is Nelson Piquet, who has only got 1 full season of Grand Prix driving behind him. Today in the new Cosworth-powered BT48, which made its debut at Canada at the end of last year. Jones leads, Piquet 2nd, Lafitte 3rd. Then Andretti is in 4th position, and behind him the rest of them go streaming through. Lap 1, and there are 53 laps in this long race. Jones, Piquet, Lafitte, Andretti. Reutemann is in 5th place, and Pironi is in 6th place as they complete the first lap.
Well, Reutemann's made a great start. He's moved up from a difficult-ish grid position. He had trouble with his car in practice on Friday when the track was at its quickest, but he certainly made up for it for his home Grand Prix. Villeneuve, I noticed, has recovered. He had a little excursion there, but he's right back on the track. He's well down the field, running in about 15th place or thereabouts. I expect to see him storming through the field and really tigering.
Lap 2, and Jody Scheckter is up into 6th place. So the 2 Ferraris, the world champion and the man who finished 2nd last year in the championship, Villeneuve, are both in the first 6 places. The leader coming down the fast straight towards us, Alan Jones, followed by Piquet in the Brabham BT48, then Jacques Lafitte. Reutemann is up into 4th position now. So the two Saudi Leyland cars are well up.
You'll notice, Murray, that down the main straight there, we've just come down. You'll see all the cars snaking about all over the place. This is the chance that I was talking about earlier for overtaking to happen. The cars get a good tow. There's a long straight before, then a big flat-out loop at the top, and they come down that, and they can move about. The car behind gets a good run, and of course they're concertinaing up, and they can really jockey for position, which is something that we see at all too few circuits these days.
Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Candy Tyrrell into the pits, and it looks as though his race is run already on lap 2 as Alan Jones in the Saudi Leyland car comes towards us. Piquet close up behind it. There is the second place man. 3rd is Lafitte. 4th is Reutemann. Look at the gap. Mario Andretti in 5th place. Jody Scheckter and then Patrese. Riccardo Patrese in 7th place in the new A3 Arrows. Brand new car after that. And that's René Arnoux. Wheel off. Offside wheel off the Renault. René Arnoux and Mario Andretti into the pits. The 1978 world champion in the new Essex Lotus 81. Obviously in trouble, but on lap 6, Alan Jones now has a clear lead. And coming, that's Jacques Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte is going to take Nelson Piquet and 2nd place, and he's done it. Lafitte, who won last year in the Ligier, and that's Pironi, Lafitte's teammate, out of the race, as the Frenchman from Paris, Jacques Lafitte, who won last year and at Brazil, has now moved ahead of Nelson Piquet. So it's Alan Jones leading, Jacques Lafitte in 2nd place, Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, and Carlos Reutemann. And this is the battle for 2nd between these 3 cars, and Piquet comes out of Lafitte's slipstream alongside him and retakes 2nd position, and Carlos Reutemann tries to take Lafitte and fails. So tremendously close stuff for 2nd position.
It seems to me that the Brabham is the quicker of those 3 cars in a straight line. Piquet made a mistake in the infield on the previous lap, and Lafitte grabbed his chance and got past. I think Lafitte and Reutemann are both quicker on their own, but they got back onto the quick part of the circuit, and the superiority of the Brabham in a straight line was then evident as Piquet grabbed his position back again.
Jochen Maas into the pits, and there is Lafitte. He's going to try and take 2nd place away from Piquet, and he's done it. Jacques Lafitte's got the line, and he goes through into 2nd place. Piquet nearly loses it as the back of the car flips.
Well, this time, Lafitte has done it at the beginning of the infield, which is the section where he now stands a chance to get away, and if he does everything right this lap, he should be able to get enough of a gap on Piquet to maintain that 2nd place and not have Piquet come past him on the quick part with the tow.
And they're coming out already. That Jean-Pierre Jabouille's car in the background went into the pits. Both Renaults then are out of the race. And now Carlos Reutemann is catching Piquet. But look at this. This is Piquet in the Brabham. Behind him, Carlos Reutemann, the Argentinian, in the Saudi Leyland car.
Piquet's moving to the right to keep the inside line for the corner. Reutemann's not giving way. And Reutemann's locked his front wheels and gone straight on. That was very good defensive driving by Piquet. Reutemann was a little bit too committed there, and he couldn't get into the corner because Piquet was holding the inside line and blocking Reutemann's turning in point there.
And it's possible not only that Reutemann's lost time, which he undoubtedly has, but that he damaged his car going off the circuit, as Alan Jones now with a very comfortable lead early on in the race goes on, and Reutemann into the pits.
Yes, I should think, Murray, that he got grass or something in his radiators then, or maybe damaged a skirt. Yes, he's having the mechanics pull grass and stuff out of the radiators. The temperature of the car is always terribly critical in BA. The engines run very, very hot, and any sort of knuckle grass in the radiator, in fact, it's happened to me one year there. I blew a race by getting grass in the radiator and not stopping to have it cleaned, and my engine blew up as a result. Reutemann may or may not have caught his engine before it was damaged.
Jones leads. Lafitte is 2nd. There is Alan Jones, number 27, catching Mario Andretti, who has, of course, been into the pits, and Alan Jones gaining on him to lap him. Lafitte is 2nd. Piquet is 3rd. Villeneuve is 4th in the Ferrari. World champion Jody Scheckter in 5th position, and Keke Rosberg in the Wolf is up into 6th position.
We've had a lot of problems during practice with the track breaking up. The track was resurfaced apparently about a month ago, following some breaking up problems when the Renault team were down testing before Christmas. And the new surface that they put on in places has not taken properly. It hasn't been weathered in properly. It's probably been a hot spell down there, and it's been breaking up, which makes it very slippery indeed, and there have been complaints. The drivers were having a big meeting about it. I gather there was a lot of argy-bargy about whether they should race or not. However, it makes conditions very tricky. For my money, it's the same for everybody, and there's no harm so long as there aren't chunks of rock being thrown at each other, which I gather is not a problem. And it's a real test of concentration and controlled driving when the conditions are this treacherous.
Lap 13, Jones, Lafitte, Piquet, Reutemann, Villeneuve, Scheckter, and Rosberg in the Fittipaldi has gone down to 7th position. There is the leader, Alan Jones. 4 Grand Prix wins behind him last year, one in 1977, on his way, seemingly the way this race is going, to his 6th Grand Prix win. Alan Jones from Australia, tough, burly, doughty driver. He's got ahead now, a long gap. Look at the lead between himself and the battle for 2nd position, which is yet to appear. And Jones off the course, and Andretti goes through to repass him.
Well, it appeared then that he just seemed to lock the front wheels. He may have a problem with his car, but that is on a place where there's a lot of what we call the marbles on the track. You get a little bit offline, and all the bits that are broken up on the track have turned to gravel, and it is literally like driving on gravel. If you get on that gravel, you just have no grip at all, especially with those big fat tires. That may be what happened to Jones, but we'll have to see how he re-establishes himself.
It does not seem to be bothering him, because Alan Jones is going just as quickly now as he was before, and he's got the problem, of course, of again catching and trying to repass the 1978 world champion Mario Andretti in the Essex Lotus. There is Andretti completing another lap. Alan Jones behind him. Lafitte is still in 2nd place. Piquet 3rd, Reutemann 4th, Villeneuve 5th, and Jody Scheckter in the Ferrari in 6th position. Alan Jones.
Yeah, he looks healthy enough, Murray. He's caught right back up to Andretti, the amount that he lost just then. So I imagine he's done no damage to his car, unless, of course, he's hurt a skirt a little bit.
And Alan Jones surging up to Mario Andretti's rear wing and straight past.
Yeah, Andretti led him through there in the big loop. That's a good experienced driver, because Andretti's already been in the pits, letting the leader through properly without holding him up or getting in his way.
Alan Jones away then, a clear circuit in front of him, in the lead, and that's Carlos Reutemann, Alan Jones's teammate, sitting absolutely still in the car, obviously out of the race. He's turned it in, no time to have a conversation with him, and that's Gilles Villeneuve now up into 4th position, lapping Marc Surer, the Swiss driver in the ATS, his first drive in this car. Villeneuve, who won 3 Grand Prix in the Ferrari in 1979, and now he's closing up on Piquet. That's Nelson Piquet in the white and blue new colour scheme Brabham, number 5, as into the pits comes Alan Jones. This is the leader, frantically gesticulating. Has he got the same trouble as Carlos Reutemann? His car doesn't seem to be stopping. The wheels are still turning, but now they stop.
Well, that was an amazingly quick pit stop, man. I couldn't see exactly what they did. It did look as if they were diving at his radiators, and one can only assume that they've pulled out any muck that got stuck in there from his excursion.
Alan Jones rejoins in 4th place, just ahead of Jody Scheckter in 5th place. There's Scheckter in the Ferrari. Jones then down from 1st to 4th position. He's got in front of him the new race leader, Lafitte, Piquet and Villeneuve.
Well, if Jones has no further damage to his car, we've got a real race on our hands, Murray, because the Williams is still showing the superiority it showed last year. It's on full form here. He's got the speed to catch and pass the others, but he's going to have to work very hard, and he's going to have to do it with a lot of control, because the track is visibly getting very slippery. They're all tiptoeing around this particular little infield section here. That's not a good angle, but if we get another angle on that, we'll see just how slippery it is and how the cars are going very, very slowly indeed through that section, as if it was wet.
There, number 26, the new leader, Jacques Lafitte, who is closing up on Riccardo Zunino, who is the Argentinian driver and the teammate of Nelson Piquet. Lafitte, that's Piquet in 2nd place. Villeneuve in 3rd position. Mario Andretti has been lapped 26. The leader, Jacques Lafitte, in the revamped Ligier. All the cars in this race are either entirely new or very much revised. And that's the battle for 2nd position between Nelson Piquet. There's the leader, Lafitte. Behind him, Piquet, and behind Piquet, Gilles Villeneuve, lap 20 out of 53.
And Alan Jones just appeared in the picture at the back there in 4th place with Scheckter behind him, so we've got the first 5 cars covered by not much more than 10 seconds, and they're all closing up.
Indeed, a fine motor race to start the 1980 World Championship Grand Prix season. And barreling down the straight. See how fast. It's good 180 miles an hour, and they don't even lift off for the curve on, the double right-hander in 5th gear or 6th if you've got a 6-speed box. And there is Nelson, that's Zunino, who is about to be lapped by the second car, which is the race leader, Jacques Lafitte. Then behind him is Nelson Piquet. That's Piquet on the right, and on the left is Gilles Villeneuve in 4th position. So, Ligier leads Brabham, leads Ferrari.
The Ferrari now, you'll notice, seems to close up on the infield section and then lose out on the fast section of the circuit. We're now going into the infield.
And Jacques Lafitte is passing Zunino, who moves over and lets him through. Now, is Zunino similarly going to let his teammate Nelson Piquet and Gilles Villeneuve through? It looks like it because Zunino was moving over. There he goes. That's Lafitte away in the lead, building and a very despondent, depressed, dejected Carlos Reutemann, who wanted so much to do well in front of his home crowd, out of the first race that he's driven in the Saudi Leyland car. The battle for 2nd position. Piquet and Villeneuve. And
Villeneuve's gone off. He's just made a little mistake at the S chicane there, but I don't think it's lost him any ground. He held the car nice and straight over the grass, but again, of course, he may have got a bit of grass in his radiators. Only time can tell. We see that. That's his second excursion. He's been off on the first half of that same place on the first lap of the race.
And that means that Nelson Piquet there in 2nd position has been able to, that's Jones, and Nelson Piquet's been able to increase the gap over himself and the new 3rd place man Villeneuve in the new Ferrari, number 2. Very low-built car. It's different from last year's T4. This is the T5. Piquet goes through, Villeneuve goes through, and Jones right with Villeneuve. Alan Jones is fighting back. He's closed up to the battle for 2nd between Villeneuve and Piquet. He's right now almost on the rear wing of Gilles Villeneuve.
Well, it's really the battle for the lead as well, Murray, because Lafitte is only 2 or possibly 3 seconds clear of them in the front, so we've got the 4 cars battling out, and they're all closing on Lafitte.
Look at this. The flat 12 Ferrari of the young French-Canadian Gilles Villeneuve. The V8 Cosworth-powered car of Alan Jones, and Jones is gaining on Villeneuve. The Saudi Leyland car is quicker than the Ferrari. He's right with Villeneuve, who is behind Piquet.
Yeah, Jones is getting the toe down the straight. He's going to pull out, and I reckon he's going to do Villeneuve now, but Villeneuve will fight for sure because he's the last man to give up in the situation. Jones is through on the braking, and Villeneuve's having a go back at him. Jones did it, though.
But Jones holds the position. So Alan Jones upper place and now pulling away.
Yes, well, Villeneuve's return stab there cost him a bit of time. Here we have it in replay. You'll see that Jones gets through. Villeneuve makes a bit of a mess of it afterwards. It's cost him a bit of a gap, which gives Jones the cushions he needs. But Jones has wasted it. Look at the main picture. Jones has spun there. He got onto the marbles, and he's wasted it, which was a very stupid mistake, and most unlike Alan Jones, who's normally so steady. He knows it's slippery there, and Villeneuve, by his mistake, had given him enough room to take the pressure off, where he could have tiptoed round the tricky bits and set about building the lead later.
So Gilles Villeneuve up to 3rd position. Alan Jones there down to 4th position. And now he's got the fight all over again. Alan Jones is really having a race of variables. He's led, and now he is down again to 4th position. There is Villeneuve passing Clay Regazzoni in the Unipart car as Villeneuve now goes up alongside and past Clay Regazzoni. So, Villeneuve 3rd, Alan Jones, and there is Nelson Piquet through in 2nd position. The race leader still Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier Cosworth car. Villeneuve and Jones is past Regazzoni. So the 2nd and 3rd men are about 20 lengths away from each other. Villeneuve on the right, and Jones in the Saudi Williams, really challenging. Now he's got to pull back, and look, he is pulling back. You can see that the Saudi Leyland car is visibly gaining on the Ferrari. There is Piquet, behind him Villeneuve, behind him Alan Jones, then Clay Regazzoni, who has been lapped. Jones now right with the Ferrari. Soon he can start to challenge and try and take that place.
Yes, Villeneuve does have a serious tactical problem for the race here. As I was saying before, he's very quick through the... Oh, and Villeneuve's now made a mistake. Villeneuve's gone off at the S, and he's let Jones slip by, but I think he held it okay. Yes, he did. He's back on the track.
That's how hard they're pressing each other. Villeneuve makes a mistake. Alan Jones benefits from it, and he's really rolling the car very gently round that twisty section there, because that's where the track is breaking up. That's where he has had trouble, and that's where he intends to have no trouble again. And that's Emerson Fittipaldi, double ex-world champion, out of the race.
Yes, Villeneuve's tactical problem is simply that by being quick on the infield, which is the area which you can't overtake on the circuit, he's stuck as Alan Jones having a go at Piquet now.
Alan Jones in third position, Piquet in second, Villeneuve behind them in fourth position, and Jones right now with Piquet, and Villeneuve just behind Alan Jones. Terrific stuff for second place. Young Nelson Piquet, in only his second full season of Grand Prix racing, is going to be taken, or is he, by Alan Jones.
See how they're tiptoeing through the slippery bit. Jones gets the power down better. Now Jones got out of the slippery bit there, and he's just slipped past him with better traction and of taking a better line, getting onto the grippy bit better than Piquet did, who under pressure went a little bit wide.
Half distance, lap 26 out of 53. Carlos Reutemann looking for a clear track to cross it, which he does, and go despondently back to the pits. And so, lap 26, Jacques Lafitte leads in the Ligier. There is Alan Jones second, Nelson Piquet third, the Ferrari of Villeneuve fourth, the Ferrari of Scheckter fifth, and Riccardo Patrese, the Italian driver in the Arrows, in sixth position.
There's so much excitement going on, I can't get out what Villeneuve's tactical problem is. I'll try again. Problem is that he's slow on the fast part of the circuit, which is where all the overtaking happens. So that means on the infield where he's quick and picks up, he can't overtake. On the fast bit of the circuit, everybody swarms past him fairly easily, and of course he can't get past them. So he has got a bit of a problem, and he needs always to be passed just for the infield section and get away then.
Jacques Lafitte has a problem too, and there it is. Behind him, Alan Jones. Behind him, Piquet. Behind him, Villeneuve. And they are all, especially Alan Jones, gaining on the race leader, Jacques Lafitte. This is the battle for third. It's Piquet and Villeneuve, Brabham and Ferrari. And Villeneuve goes off, Piquet goes off, and Villeneuve gains on him. Now, he is going to be rattled, and yes, Villeneuve
Piquet
goes through.
No, Villeneuve's overdone it. Look, it's on the slippery bit. Piquet fought back. He forced Villeneuve to lock up. This is really too exciting for me. I can't handle this.
So, Jacques Lafitte is leading. Alan Jones is in second place.
Jones has gone wide. There we are, Jones on the slippery bit again. If you look carefully at the track, you'll notice that we got that on the line, the surface looks a bit clean and shiny, and off it, it's very gritty and gravelly. There's the replay.
There is the leader, Jacques Lafitte. Second place, Alan Jones. Third place, Villeneuve. And 26, Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier Cosworth leads the Argentine Grand Prix of 1980, as he did in 1979, and in 1979 he won.
See, once again there, Villeneuve got the better traction, and he just slipped by Piquet coming out on... Piquet stuck on the marbles again, so now... And Piquet, in fact, has dropped right back, so I don't quite know what's happened to Piquet.
Well, look at Alan Jones, because Alan Jones is undoubtedly gaining on the flying Jacques Lafitte, number 26, the 36-year-old Frenchman from Plagny, some 11 years in racing. Villeneuve there in the new T5 Ferrari in third position, Jones ahead of him. Jones, who has gone from first down to fourth, up to third, back to fourth, and is now in second position, catching Jacques Lafitte. Villeneuve we are looking at in the Ferrari. This is the fastest part of the course. There is the leader, Jacques Lafitte. Now watch Alan Jones in the Saudi Leyland car.
Yes, Lafitte's days are beginning to look a bit numbered, because both Jones and Villeneuve are definitely quicker than him overall on the lap, and they've now got a clear run at him, and I don't think they're going to make much mistake this time. There you can see the track breaking up. If you look carefully at the stripes on the surface on the line where the two wheels have grooved the track, and all the and you can see the dust and rubbish and marbles off the line, and if they put a wheel onto that, it's just like trying to go racing up your gravel drive.
The man walking in was Riccardo Patrese, who was in sixth place and is now out of the race, and this is the battle for the lead. Alan Jones big in the mirrors of Jacques Lafitte's Ligier. Jones must feel very confident, because although he has made mistakes, although he has been into the pits, he has come up from 4th to 2nd place. Villeneuve just behind him. There's the Ferrari. That's the 3rd place man. And here is Lafitte and Jones again. And is this going to be the point where Alan Jones takes the lead, or is Lafitte going to hold it?
Well, Jones is going to try and tow past him on the big straight. They'll go past the pits now, start the new lap, go through the S, and Jones will be trying to get himself about maybe 6 or 7 car lengths behind Lafitte so that he can go up the straight, getting closer and closer with the help of the tow, go through the loop without being falling all over the top of Lafitte, and then tow past him down the return half of the main straight into the infield section and try and get away there.
Marc Surer, the Swiss driver, his first drive in the ATS out of the Argentine Grand Prix, but all eyes, and there are several 100,000 people watching this, Lafitte and Jones.
Yes, Jones was in the perfect position. He started about 6 or 7 lengths behind Lafitte. He's towed closer and closer. They've come out of the loop, and now he's got the run up, and he will for sure sweep past Jacques Lafitte on the straight now. There he goes, pulled out, and it's all easy for him because he got his judgment just right in the starting place on the straight.
And watch the way the cars are bouncing on the suspension as they go down the straight. That's because the ground effects, the skirts on the side of the car, are breaking traction. The car goes up and then it regains the traction. It goes down again. And Alan Jones leads. Watch this again. Jones out of Lafitte's slipstream, taking the lead. And back again into first position, the place that he lost on the 17th lap. And now on lap 30, Alan Jones is on his way to his 6th Grand Prix victory if the car lasts. And Gilles Villeneuve, behind the blue and white Ligier, is challenging Jacques Lafitte for 2nd position.
Yes, you see how quick Villeneuve is through the infield section. He's caught up a huge amount on Lafitte. He's challenging him hard, but he can't overtake here unless Lafitte makes a mistake. And Lafitte's been driving an extremely steady and clean race. He's really driving very well indeed, and he's not about to make a mistake, I don't think. Now you see we're coming out to the faster part of the circuit, and I suspect that when they get through the fast S, Lafitte will pull away a bit from Villeneuve, and Villeneuve will then be out of range for the overtaking.
Jacques Lafitte 2nd, Villeneuve 3rd, Piquet 4th, Scheckter 5th, and Keke Rosberg now in 6th position. The Ligier, there is the Saudi Leyland of Alan Jones.
Yes, here we come. You see through the fast 5th gear S there, Lafitte's pulled out a large amount, and quite frankly, Villeneuve is now too far behind him to pick up the tow. He won't be able to pass him this lap. This means Lafitte, he'll catch them all up in the infield. The same thing's going to happen, and this is the tactical problem that Villeneuve has got. And of course, with Villeneuve is forceful enough without having a tactical problem like this. It's like red rag to a bull for somebody like Villeneuve.
Jones, Lafitte, Villeneuve, and Lafitte seems to be holding on to Alan Jones and out comes his hand. Lafitte's engine has blown. The Ligier is out and through into 2nd position. The roadblock removed goes Gilles Villeneuve, and there is the French-Canadian Jacques Lafitte. Cruel luck, number 26, with smoke out of the back of the car, with the pressure cap blowing off from the tank. Great plume of steam. Jacques Lafitte, who did so well last year here and in Brazil, is out of the race. Jones leads, Villeneuve is in 2nd place, and what a marvellous position for an interview, but I don't think they're going to get one.
Yes, Lafitte there looks like the classic overheating problem. Quite frankly, looked like a blown piston. There's a lot of steam coming out of the thing in the water system.
Clay Regazzoni into the pits in the Unipart Ensign for the 2nd time this race, and it looks as though he is out of it. Alan Jones on his way. Now Villeneuve behind him. Can the French-Canadian do anything about it? It looks as though Alan Jones is now starting a full clear lap.
Yes, oh yes, and it looks as if we've got this caption, so I'll try and talk you round it. Follow the ball. It's a bit, I'm afraid the ball driver's a bit behind. That's Alan Jones going through the very fast S there. That's taken in 5th gear out of 6 if you've got it. He now accelerates into top gear and full speed up to between 175 and 180 miles an hour, where he goes into this loop here absolutely flat out. If his car's all right, he doesn't lift at all, but it's absolutely on the limit. He's doing, as I say, between 175 and 180. He's coming through the 2nd half of the loop, and now he'll come back down. Yes, there he is, coming up the straight. I'm afraid the guy driving the ball on the loop down in Argentina there is a bit out of sync with Alan Jones' exact position, but you'll have to try and follow it your best. He comes down the long straight. This is where the overtaking takes place with a good tow, and he then breaks down quite a fast fourth gear S where we've got a lot of track braking from. There's the messiness on the track, a puff of smoke from Jones, which is a bit worrying for him. Through the S, now he goes up to the first gear hairpin, which again is a very slippery part. They've been tiptoeing through that, into the first gear hairpin. The ball's in the right place at the moment. And now he goes through this very tricky bit where the track is really treacherous. It must be just like driving on a wet road because their lap times are reflecting it. The ball driver's got completely out of place. Ignore the ball. He's going still through this wiggly bit, coming into that final left-hander. The ball is now ahead of where Alan is. Out of the left-hander, down the straight. He's starting the straight where the ball's just already gone. He's coming down. Now the ball is in a fast S, which is taken in fourth gear, about 110 miles an hour. Alan is now in that, to the left and the right, and then down into the final other first gear hairpin on the track. The ball's now got behind. Yes, and you'll see up on the clock in the right-hand corner of the screen, the lap time is running, and it's incredibly slow. Alan qualified, there it is, 1 minute 55.5. He qualified in 1 minute 44.1. It's over 11 seconds slower. On Friday morning, they did 1:42 round the track, and this can only reflect the terrible condition that the circuit's in, because that's very nearly a wet weather time, it's so slow.
And while we have been watching Alan Jones, so from an increasing distance behind has been Gilles Villeneuve in second place, because Alan Jones is pulling away in the lead. The car is going superbly. The revamped Saudi Leyland car, it looks the same as last year's car, but in fact it's very different. Patrick Head has built better aerodynamics into it, and now Alan Jones is gaining on Riccardo Zunino, the Argentinian driver in the Brabham BT48.
Oh, now there's a little close-up of the track breaking up, Murray. You'll see, look, there's a huge, great groove. The asphalt's broken up. Now, when it comes away, it gets ripped away from there by the big tires and all that grip. It breaks up into gravel-sized sort of particles, which then spread on the track, stick to the big tires, and when you get on that, the tires have no contact with the road at all, quite apart from all the problems of going through the ruts.
Alan Jones, there is Zunino ahead of him. Only Zunino's third Grand Prix. His first was in Canada last year when Niki Lauda retired so dramatically, and Zunino was fortuitously there to take his place. Then on to America, where he drove extremely well, and now in his third Grand Prix. Gilles Villeneuve in second place. The Ferrari going well. He's not all that far behind Alan Jones, who has now taken Zunino. Now Gilles Villeneuve has got to catch up with the Argentine driver, pass him before he can do anything, if indeed he can, about Alan Jones, who is in the lead. So, Villeneuve, T5 Ferrari, Zunino in front of him, Alan Jones leading. Over the rough part of the course they go to start another lap.
Yes, Gilles Villeneuve is still well up with Alan Jones. He's only about 3 or 4 seconds behind him, and if anything, his car is in very good shape, his tyres are in good shape, and with the reliability of the Ferrari, I would suggest that he stands a very good chance of being right there at the finish.
Villeneuve has pulled away from Nelson Piquet, who is in third position, but Piquet holding as we look at the replay of Villeneuve passing Zunino.
Yes, that's an example, Murray, of how not to do the courteous thing when being lapped. Zunino's inexperienced. It's his first Grand Prix, or his first or second Grand Prix. He instead of pulling to the right of the track and giving Villeneuve the line, he made him go on the tight line into the corner, which was not very courteous.
But Villeneuve tremendously quick as he comes out of the right-hander. Now you can see the difference in class because of the experience, because Villeneuve is got a full season, nearly 2 full seasons Formula One experience, compared with Zunino, who is only in his first full season. And Villeneuve pulling away, you can see that in the Ferrari from the Brabham BT48 as Villeneuve comes down into the slower infield towards the end of the lap, chasing very hard in Alan Jones. Chasing Alan Jones very hard indeed in the Ferrari. Coming now, lining it up for the flick through the left here, long left. Now underneath the warning lights here, there is Alan Jones in the lead. That is the gap between Alan Jones, the leader, and Villeneuve, who is trying very, very hard indeed as he comes up to the right-hand bend here. Lines it up, and he's off! He's off! Villeneuve off! Is he all right?
Well, that looked to me, Murray, as if it suggested something broke on the front of the car then, because the car never appeared to make any attempt at all to turn right. He went through the left-hand bit of the corner. When he went to turn right, he just went straight on, and that usually indicates a front-end failure. It didn't look like a mistake from Villeneuve. It was just too dead straight.
That is an incredible picture there, because you see how strong modern Grand Prix cars are. Villeneuve thwacked into the barrier and he's all right.
Yeah, we've got a replay here, Murray. Now look at the front wheels and see, let's see if anything happens. Yes, the front wheels splay out there, right? There's a definite front-end failure, probably the left-hand front suspension, because both front wheels you can see just splayed out, and the car just went straight on with no steering.
Villeneuve has had a reputation for crashing, but that was no fault of his. Obviously some sort of suspension failure. Look at the front of the car as Villeneuve slowly gets out of it. Watch his knees come up now out of the car. You've seen, and there's the damage. A very, very shattered Ferrari. And so that leaves Jody Scheckter, the world champion, in the race as Alan Jones goes on his way, now leading Nelson Piquet, who has moved up into second position. Jody Scheckter, the world champion, up to third. Keke Rosberg to fourth. Derek Daly, the Irish driver in the Candy Tyrrell, in fifth place, and Bruno Giacomelli, the Italian, in the Alfa Romeo, in sixth position, and the last man to gain world championship points if the race finishes in the order that the drivers are in now, which seems unlikely from the way it's gone so far. Alan Jones leading. Tactics, do you think, James?
Well, now all effective opposition has been removed from Alan Jones. Piquet is still present, but not pressuring. I think he's about 20, 25 seconds behind. Jones will have been signalled from his pit. He'll know that Villeneuve has gone, and all he will be doing now is nursing his car and concentrating very hard not making a mistake. He'll be driving entirely defensively just to nurse himself and the car to the finish line in one piece. He may be conscious of the fact that he's had a couple of spins. The engine has probably got hot, if it was a radiator that he was clearing when he made that pit stop. An incredible situation. He's had 2 spins and a pit stop, or one excursion, a spin, and a pit stop, and he's out there leading the race, and it just shows the superiority of the Williams, because he was out there leading the race on merit by fighting his way back past everybody, which is a quite incredible performance, largely due to the superiority of the car.
Alan Jones, who until last year was very underestimated as a driver, from Palos Verdes in California and a home in Ealing, and he commutes between the two and all over the place. Ex-Can-Am champion, ex-Formula 3, Formula Atlantic, you name it, Alan's driven in it, and always extremely well. And now he is really underlining his superiority, because although he has been off twice, although he has been into the pits once, he has regained the lead in this very important race, because if he can win as Clay Regazzoni comes in the Unipart Ensign again, if Alan Jones can win this race, it'll give him a tremendous psychological lift at the beginning of the season. And that is Jody Scheckter, who is up into third position in the Ferrari. He has driven an immaculate, reliable race. He is in the points, and it looks as though he's going to stay there with Gilles Villeneuve out of the race. Scheckter, the world champion, in third position. Alan Jones up from fourth to first, the fastest lap so far in the race, just a whisker over 1 minute and 50 seconds, much slower than Jacques Lafitte's lap record last year, 1 minute 46.9, that is 124.9 miles an hour, and Alan Jones put up that fastest lap on the 5th lap in this 53 lap race, and he's got slower, of course, because the circuit has been breaking up, and he's had to take, and Scheckter, that is Jody Scheckter's car. It's blown, the engine has blown, and that is something you do not expect to see with Ferrari, who are famous for their reliability. So Villeneuve out with a broken car, very much so, and now Jody Scheckter.
Yes, that's incredible to see 2 Ferraris out, both with mechanical failure. However, of course, it could be possible that Villeneuve had a couple of off-course excursions before, and he may well have damaged or weakened something on the front suspension. But that, with Scheckter, that's a straightforward engine blow-up. That can be nothing to do with him, and that is really a rare thing, 2 broken Ferraris.
And that is the unfortunate Patrick Depailler, who broke both his legs with a hang gliding accident last summer, lost his place in the Ligier team, went to Alfa Romeo, and is now out of the race. In with a bang is Keke Rosberg, number 21 in the Fittipaldi ex-Wolf car, who is now up into third position. The Finnish driver, Keke Rosberg, just ahead of Derek Daly in the Candy Tyrrell, who is well up in the points in fourth position. As Alan Jones starts the 53rd and last lap. Ultima Vuelta, the last lap for Alan Jones. He has only got 3.7 miles, less than that to go now, between himself and the checkered flag, which is going to be waved to him by that great Argentine driver, Juan Manuel Fangio, 5 times a world champion.
Well, Alan Jones certainly deserves his victory today on the strength of a lot of the bad luck he had last year, because he wasn't very lucky last year, and quite frankly this has been a very lucky victory for him indeed. He's normally a very, very reliable, very mistake-free driver. He's one of the guys who makes least mistakes of all in Grand Prix racing, and yet today he's really had a bit of a brainstorm by his standards. He's had a couple of excursions, both in non-pressure situations really, on the slippery bit, but he knew the track was slippery, he knew it was treacherous, and with that car superiority, it's no need to do that sort of thing. That's how you blow a race. He was lucky not to damage the car, get anything in his radiators, and but he has certainly demonstrated the huge superiority that car enjoys at this particular moment, although of course things change very fast in Grand Prix racing, and he may need every point he can get now if somebody else comes along with a quicker car in due course.
Alan Jones down to the hairpin, the Horquilla, almost within sight of the checkered flag on the 53rd and last lap, and his 6th Grand Prix victory in his career. He won 1 for Shadow, 4 for Saudia Williams, and now it looks like 1 for Saudia Leyland in the first Grand Prix of 1980. A race out of which, as the fans cheer him home, remember, there's the checkered flag in the Williams pit, the Union Jack ready to greet him home, and he'll be delighted to see that, because out of this race has gone Villeneuve, Scheckter, Patrese, Reutemann, Lafitte, Andretti, Jabouille, Arnoux, Depailler and Pironi, but not Alan Jones. Fangio, the checkered flag. Alan Jones wins the first Grand Prix of 1980 in the Argentine, and a famous and a superb victory it is too.
Fine drive by Nelson Piquet, Murray, coming into second place. He did extremely well. He's made few mistakes on this very difficult day in difficult conditions, and of course very hard physically because it's very hot.
There is Nelson Piquet finishing, and in third position behind him will be Keke Rosberg in the Fittipaldi. There he is, Derek Daly, 3 points in the Candy Tyrrell. 2 fine points for Bruno Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo, and a magnificent 1 point in his first Grand Prix ever, Alain Prost, the European Formula 3 champion. So, Alan Jones, the winner. There are still 15 Grand Prix. There is the burly Alan Jones in the hat with the gold leaf on it, with Gilles Villeneuve, with Nelson Piquet, on the way to the victory rostrum. And are we going to see more of this again this year? I suspect we are, because Alan Jones, one way and another, has dominated the Argentine Grand Prix. But in 2 weeks' time, it is the Brazilian Grand Prix. It'll be on BBC Two, and James Hunt and I hope you will join us. Touch and go that there'd be a Brazilian Grand Prix at all this year. The drivers are very unhappy about the 5-mile Interlagos circuit, and they've protested about competing there, for the surface is appallingly bumpy. In fact, they say it's positively dangerous.
Yes, well, the bumps certainly make driving very unpleasant, but it is at least the same for everybody. The real problem with the danger of the circuit is, of course, the barriers and the catch fence arrangements, which are definitely inadequate. Jody Scheckter, we see here now, has been leading a fight for safety, and he nearly got the race stopped. A lot of drivers didn't want to do it. Alan Jones has been troubled by the bumps. Some of the cars are performing much better than others over the bumps, but the Renault, with Jabouille driving, sitting on the pole as we see here now, has certainly had no problem.
So 40 laps over this 5-mile circuit. That's almost 200 miles as they line up on the grid. Jabouille on the right. There is Gilles Villeneuve behind Jabouille, and to the left of your picture, number 25, Didier Pironi, the Frenchman, in the Ligier, second fastest. Now, we can expect the Renault to get away slowly because of its turbocharger, and indeed it has, because it's Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari and Pironi that punch past Jabouille into the first corner. It's Villeneuve, then the two Ligiers, Pironi and Lafitte. Jabouille in fourth position, Arnoux in the turbocharged Renault in fifth place, and Villeneuve, the brilliant young French-Canadian driver in the flat 12 Ferrari, is on his way in the Brazilian Grand Prix. Then the Ligiers, Jabouille coming out from behind Lafitte to take third position. Terrific power, Arnoux, then De Angelis and Alan Jones in seventh place in the Saudi Leyland.
Yes, we had a bit of a bump there just at the back of the field, Murray. I couldn't quite see who it was, but it looked possibly like Zanino in the Brabham, touched another car and spun out.
Villeneuve, Pironi, second fastest, driving in only his second race in the Ligier Gitane car. Last year was in the Tyrrell. So the Frenchman in second place, Jabouille in third position. Then there is Lafitte, and here is Villeneuve in the Ferrari.
This is a circuit that, apart from the chassis, of course, you can't do well here without a good chassis. You watch the power of the Renault. Now, the Renault's power is a really big advantage here at Interlagos. We've got an uphill straight they just came up. Here's a replay now of that incident on the first. You'll see two cars, just there he goes, just touching. And I think that looks like a Brabham to me, so it must be Zanino spinning.
And it's still Gilles Villeneuve on the first lap. And look how Didier Pironi in the Ligier is holding on. Then there's the very, very powerful turbocharged Renault of Jabouille, who's already made one essay to get at and pass Didier Pironi and failed. And as sure as anything, he'll be trying again soon. Into the right-hander, Villeneuve still, Pironi second, Jabouille behind Jabouille in fourth position, the Ligier of Jacques Lafitte, who won here last year, as he did in the Argentine last year, but he had bad luck at the Argentine a couple of weeks ago. That's Lafitte. Now, where is Jabouille, and what is the relationship between Jabouille and Lafitte as Villeneuve still leads away on lap 1?
Yes, well, we'll see now. They're going on to the last corner of the lap, and they've got a long uphill straight, accelerating from a slow corner, and this is where, above all, the power of the Renault turbocharger will tell. And let's have a look now to see if he is, in fact, making an impression on Pironi. Yes, he's gone right past him. Jabouille has passed Pironi on pure acceleration, up the hill, on full tanks. If you can see any sort of noticeable difference between two cars' straight line performance in Grand Prix racing, there's a big power advantage. To see a difference like that means that there's a really huge advantage, something probably, I would think, comfortably 60 horsepower, probably even more, the Renault has as an advantage. Now we can see if he can close that gap down the back straight on the Ferrari. Of course, he'll be running more wing than the Ferrari, so his top speed won't be so fast. His big advantage is going to be on acceleration.
Jacques Lafitte into third position, and that's Mario Andretti, the 1978 world champion, and it looks as though he's out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Lafitte trying to take his teammate Pironi, who will have nothing of it. Yeah. Lafitte trying to go through on the inside. Now on the other side, it's still Villeneuve first. In second position, Jabouille. And it'll be interesting to see whether the very powerful Renault is going to be able to do anything about the very powerful Ferrari, each producing something over 500 horsepower. Well,
this is another chance. Now we've got an uphill right-hand corner, medium speed, and a straight where power really tells. And look at that Renault close up on the Ferrari. There's no slipstream advantage here, and Jabouille slips straight past in the lead, purely on the power of his car.
Lap 2, a new leader, Jean-Pierre Jabouille in the Renault, who won last year's French Grand Prix at Dijon in brilliant style. And look at it again. And watch the way the Renault absolutely powers past the Ferrari.
Yes, Murray, don't get me wrong on this. Of course, the Renault chassis is also working extremely well. He wouldn't be up there. You can't do this just with power, but the situation appears to me to be that the chassis are all pretty similar in performance and grip at the moment. And the big difference, of course, is Jabouille's extra power with his turbocharged engine. And in fact, Villeneuve must be in some sort of trouble because Pironi slipped past him as well.
So, Jabouille, a much maligned driver. There are some people that say it is the car and not Jabouille that does so well in Grand Prix racing these days, and nothing could be further from the truth. And that is Reutemann. Carlos Reutemann in the Saudi Leyland car, who was out of the race in the Argentina. Mario Andretti, his race finished, crossing the track. Reutemann, it looks as though he's out of the race, and he had a lot of trouble in practice. It hasn't been at all a good South American season for him. So, Jabouille leading. Behind him in second position, Didier Pironi. Then a close thing between Jacques Lafitte in third position and Reutemann into the pits. There is the leader, and look at the gap as it's Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte is now in second position, and Arnoux is up into third place in the Renault, so it's Renault's first and third. In fourth position, it's Pironi. In fifth position behind them, it's De Angelis. Then it is Alan Jones is coming up to take sixth position. The man who won in the... And there is the leader, Jabouille, as Rosberg goes past with the two McLarens, and into the pits goes Pironi. Didier Pironi, who was second and second fastest in practice, is into the pits, I should think, for tyres.
Yes, I would suspect that tyres are playing a big part in this race. It usually does in Brazil. It's very hot, and that the competing tyre companies are running marginal compounds, because Villeneuve's going into the pits also, and you can bet your life that's going to be for tyres as well.
So, lap 6, and we are looking at Nelson Piquet chasing Jody Scheckter, the reigning world champion. Scheckter in the Ferrari, who was not at all happy in the Argentine, out of the race, and the Ferrari has not been as reliable this season as it was last, and Piquet is seemingly closing up on the world champion. Villeneuve out of the pits, and of course, Nelson Piquet has the tremendous psychological urge to do well in front of his Brazilian home crowd. Double world champion, he's doing it. He's going to take Jody Scheckter, but I reckon he's let him through.
Yes, Jody pulled wide and let him through, which makes me suspect, we've just seen Villeneuve go into the pits for tyres. The only reason Jody would do that, he's slowed up, he must be in trouble, he must be headed for the pits, and he's being very gentlemanly and correct in that he's not being silly and halting Piquet's progress when he knows that he's about to go in the pits, and sure enough, there he is going in.
So, Scheckter, lap 11, Scheckter into the pits, and the leader, still Jean-Pierre Jabouille, but Lafitte in second position. A long gap now before Lafitte in second position is followed by René Arnoux there in the turbocharged Renault. In fourth position, it's Elio De Angelis, and in the background, in fifth place, Alan Jones. As we look now at the two Fittipaldi cars, Rosberg challenging his team leader, ex-world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, as they come up and take John Watson.
Yes, a very interesting thing here. Oh, interesting to see how much quicker the Fittipaldis are on the straight than the McLaren there. McLarens have suffered for a few years from slow speed on the straight. Interesting here that the number 2 drivers, the new generation, the young guys, have emerged in a big way. Alan Prost has been, for the second time this year in both races, considerably faster than his teammate John Watson, his team leader in practice. Keke Rosberg has just got through there, past Emerson Fittipaldi, his team leader. He was quicker in practice than Emerson. Villeneuve, of course, has been consistently faster than Scheckter was last year, but lost out on experience. Didier Pironi blew off Jacques Lafitte in practice. Admittedly, Lafitte had a troubled practice, and the only combination that stayed according to plan, of course, is Arnoux and Jabouille.
And Jody Scheckter, we just caught a glimpse of there, is out of the second Grand Prix in succession. It is certainly not his year in South America, but it is so far here for Jean-Pierre Jabouille. And that is the car of Jacques Lafitte, who was in second place. He went out in the Argentine, and the Ligiers too are proving to be unreliable. Jacques Lafitte out of the race, so as the leader, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, starts another lap, up into second place will come his teammate, René Arnoux, the young Frenchman. So it looks as though it could well be, for the first time, a Renault 1-2, and that's Nelson Piquet into the pits with, it looks like a puncture. We'll soon see, as he was in sixth position, Nelson Piquet, in front of his Brazilian home crowd, and it is a puncture. Left rear tyre being changed, and it'll be very, very quick indeed, with just one tyre to change. Oh, and Nelson Piquet will be out and back into the race. The wheel nuts being tightened up. Down it goes off the jack, and out of the pits goes Nelson Piquet. Lap 17, and in front there, but about to be lapped, is Clay Regazzoni in the Unipart inside, and that's Piquet's car. Piquet's presumably tyres and into the Armco, although he looked perfectly all right.
Yeah, well, it looked to me, Murray, as if he had a completely flat left rear, and it's very frequent that you damage the suspension driving around. If he had to drive any distance on that, we didn't get a picture of him coming around, but if he had to drive any distance, he could have damaged the rear suspension, gone out of the pits, and it just broken. Much more likely to have been something like that than him going off on new tyres, because he's experienced enough now to know to feel his way out for a lap or so, and he must have gone straight out and crashed.
37-year-old Jean-Pierre Jabouille going magnificently, and so there is Didier Pironi in the Ligier, and that is number 25, because he came out of the pits in 15th position, and he's now coming right up through the field. You've just seen him take Keke Rosberg in the Fittipaldi, and he's closing up to be in the first half dozen. He's just taken Jochen Maas in the new A3 Arrows, and he's within sight now of Riccardo Patrese in the other Arrows, who is in 6th place, and that's an incredible drive by Pironi, who's really showing class this season. He's changed his allegiance from Tyrrell to Ligier. He loves the car, and he's certainly driving it superbly. Jochen Maas there leading Keke Rosberg in the Fittipaldi. Lap 22, and Jabouille is catching Derek Daly, number 4, on the left, the other Tyrrell driver, the Candy Tyrrell driver, and Jabouille passes Daly, who is in 16th place. So we are just about over half distance now, 40 laps, Fittipaldi into the pits in his Fittipaldi car to change tyres, and now Pironi has caught Patrese. Patrese is in 6th place in the new and enormously improved compared with last year's car, A3 Arrows, and Pironi is going to take him, I think.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, Murray, because the new Arrows, I gather, is particularly quick in a straight line. The Ligier is not a bad car in a straight line, but it'll be I think you'll find that it's going to be quite difficult for Pironi to get past, because he'll pull out from the toe. The Arrows will continue to penetrate the air as Pironi hits the proverbial brick wall of air.
And did you see that in the background there? That is Jean-Pierre Jabouille, and he is going into the pits. The race leader in the turbocharged Renault is going into the pits. He had trouble with his turbocharger in practice. He wanted to drive his spare car, but was prevented from doing so by the team manager, and he won't be at all happy about that. Into the pits.
Yeah, well, here's Pironi has now finally pulled out. He failed to get the toe and pass Patrese and the Arrows on the way up, but looks as if this time he got the right run at it, and he has done it.
And in the background, Alain Prost, the young French driver, and there he is in his first season of Formula One racing. He was 6th in the Argentine, and he's actually getting up to there he is in the background as Pironi takes Patrese.
Yes, Alain Prost had a fantastic season in Formula 3 last year. He basically swept all before him, and he's made a really strong impression in his arrival in Grand Prix racing. He's been markedly quicker than John Watson, who's very experienced and quick in both. And that is René Arnoux, the new leader, who's just taken over from his teammate Jabouille. He's in a comfortable lead. As I was saying, Alain Prost has been comfortably quicker than Watson in testing and in both of the first 2 races, and he would appear to be a very major prospect indeed for the future in Grand Prix racing.
René Arnoux, 31 years old, from Magny-Cours. This is only his 20th Grand Prix. He finished 2nd twice last year in his first full season, and that's Patrick Depailler, the Frenchman, driving in the Alfa Romeo team out of the race. And now we are looking at Prost, who has caught right up with Riccardo Patrese. Patrese, who is in 6th position in the Arrows, and Prost is going to take him.
Well, it's going to be a fight for straight line speed again, because Prost, the McLaren, as we saw earlier, is slow in a straight line. He passed on genuine speed out of the corner, got the run at it, and now it looks to me, and Patrese is repassing him, which just shows, considering that Prost left the corner faster than Patrese, Patrese's got him again. It just shows the difference in speed of aerodynamics between those 2 cars.
Into the pits again, Gilles Villeneuve, as we look at René Arnoux on his way, on his last lap, to his first Grand Prix victory in his career of Formula One racing, his first short career of Formula One racing, and it's been an absolutely magnificent drive. This is a good course for the power of the Renault, but I wonder how the Renault is going to perform in later Grand Prix.
Well, of course, the next Grand Prix of South Africa, where the altitude will be a huge advantage to the turbocharged Renault, which can supply air at whatever pressure it wants, whereas the normally aspirated cars get about 25 or 20% less because of the 6,000 feet altitude. After that, the Renault has done much better here at this stage of the season than it did last year. Last year, Brazil was a real struggle for the Renault team, and so we're looking at a steadily improving team. They won last year, they're winning now this year, it would appear. It's only their big problem is how they'll do on the slow circuits, the tight, twisty ones we got coming after South Africa.
The checkered flag, 9 points in a moment in the bag for René Arnoux, which will move him up to second place in the World Championship. His first win, he was second in Great Britain last year. He's driven an absolutely perfectly judged race, took over from his team leader, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, on the 25th lap, and he is now about to catch Riccardo Patrese, who is in 6th place because Prost has moved ahead of Patrese into 5th. Pironi is 4th. Alan Jones in the Saudi Leyland car is on his way to 4 points to retain his World Championship lead, and the brilliant young Italian Elio De Angelis looks as though he's going to finish in 2nd place. The question at the moment, just for the record, is whether Patrese is going to let Arnoux through and lap him at the end of the race, and whether Arnoux will even bother.
Well, I don't think he'll bother to try and pass him, but with the power that we've seen, here we go. This is an uphill straight again, the final straight, and Arnoux just marches past on pure power, because we've already seen how quick in terms of top speed the Arrows is.
The first win, and I suspect the first of many, for René Arnoux at the Brazilian Grand Prix of 1980, and a superb win. And look, on the closing lap, Arnoux has run out of petrol on the 41st lap in this 40-lap race, and it looks as though he's going to do his lap of honour sitting on the car of Riccardo Patrese, who finished in 6th position.
Glad to see a government-owned company like Renault treating the fuel crisis seriously and not wasting any.
So the winner then, there he is, René Arnoux in the Renault, and he'll be back again, I'm sure, to win more Grand Prix.
Well, a close call for René Arnoux, but a comfortable win nevertheless. The Lotus number 2 driver, Elio De Angelis of Italy, was 2nd. Alan Jones, winner of the opening round in Argentina, was 3rd. Didier Pironi of France, 4th. And he was followed in by yet another young Frenchman, Alain Prost, in his first season of Formula One. And Riccardo Patrese of Italy gets his first point of the season. So after 2 rounds, the Drivers' Championship looks like this. Jones leading on 13 points, 4 points clear of Arnoux, with De Angelis and Piquet equal 3rd, and Keke
For race 3 of this year's World Championship, the scene moves from the heat of South America to here, the heat of Kyalami near Johannesburg. The South African temperature's high, as it was in the Argentine and Brazil, but there's a big difference that's got every team except one worried, and that's the altitude. For Kyalami is 6,000 feet above sea level, and that makes normal engines gasp for air and run at reduced power, but not the French Renaults. For the 1.5-litre Renault Elf cars are turbocharged, a fact which gives them an enormous effective horsepower advantage over the rest. And with victory in Brazil, they've been going quite well enough without that. And it's Jean-Pierre Jabouille's Renault in pole position, a chilling 4.5 seconds faster than the lap record. But he needs points for the championship. for after the first 2 rounds, it's Alan Jones in the lead by 4 points ahead of René Arnoux, with Elio De Angelis in the Lotus and Piquet in the Brabham equal third, and Keke Rosberg in the Fittipaldi fifth. Alan Jones first in the Argentine, and he leads the World Championship. Gilles Villeneuve, Ferrari, first here last year, but he's yet to finish a race in 1980. And his team leader is the world champion Jody Scheckter in the Ferrari, doing his pre-race exercises, limbering up for the 78 laps ahead of him. Elio De Angelis, 21, youngest in the race, second in Brazil, in the Lotus. And as ever, the relaxed Carlos Reutemann. Last year with Lotus, this year with Williams, but 2 retirements behind him. He needs points. The grid, row 1, the 2 Renaults, Pole, Jabouille, second fastest Arnoux, row 2, Piquet and Lafitte, row 3, Pironi and Reutemann, row 4, Depaille, a magnificent comeback in the Alfa Romeo and Alan Jones, row 5, yes, row 5, the 2 Ferraris, Scheckter and Villeneuve. And now, with the grid lined up, it's warm-up time for the lap before the start.
Well, of course,
and with me, as ever, James Hunt.
Well, of course, Murray, one of the big differences about the South African track at Kyalami is that it's a track that emphasises the performance of cars to a far greater extent than any other track in the world. And that is to say that it's really a very, very easy track to drive on. I think here the difference between a really good driver and somebody driving not very quickly is something like 2 or only 3/10 of a second a lap. I remember when I was driving at Kyalami, I'd do 3 laps at time X, put in a really big effort, get one really right on the 4th lap, thinking that I'd gone just like that half a second quicker that one can sometimes produce, and come in with like half a tenth quicker. And it's very demoralising at that point. And there is a problem with Elio De Angelis, his car. He doesn't seem to have got away with the field. They're having to push start him. Now, if they can get his car going, there's a new rule that's been in existence for about a year now, whereby he cannot now fight his way back through the field and rejoin his proper grid position. He'll have to stick at the back and start from the back if he can catch them up, that is, on the warm-up lap. Now, as I was saying about Kyalami, it is a problem. It emphasises car performance, and back in like 77 and 76 years at the Grand Prix, when the cars were running very closely, we had, I think, something like 14 cars being covered in the first second spread of times. Now this year we have the 2 Renaults nearly 2 seconds quicker than the very next cars. Of course, we didn't have turbocharging then, but the spread has definitely come. There is De Angelis got going again, so he should be able to catch the field up and join at the back. Now recently I was asked by somebody what those white lines are at Kyalami, and for those of you who are interested, it's not a regular street being used or anything like that. It is in fact purely used for sports car racing. When they have long distance races, which they quite frequently have at Kyalami, they have some cars that are a lot quicker than others, and the slow ones have to stay one side and let the fast ones through on the other. That's a safety thing. That's the final corner right onto the straight that we see, which is a second gear hairpin where the cars go very light. It's a very spectacular place to watch because the cars really slide a lot.
Out of the kink then, that is the right-hander in the background. Up to the start and finish point, underneath the banner, come the 2 Renaults. On the right, Jean-Pierre Jabouille. On the left is René Arnoux. And Elio De Angelis has got up amongst the grid at the back, which is where he will have to stay. Piquet comes into position alongside the Ligier there of Jacques Lafitte. And there in the background, the 2 Saudi Leyland Williams cars, Carlos Reutemann and Alan Jones, with Didier Pironi, 78 laps, 200 miles. Any moment it's go, and it is. Now watch the Renaults. Will they get away quickly? Yes, quickly enough, but Alan Jones comes through from the 4th row and is up to Crowthorne, the right-hander, at the end of the straight with the Renaults. But now Arnoux moves across and lets Jabouille through and into the lead. Already the Renaults are leading. It's Jean-Pierre Jabouille on the first corner in the Renault, leading his teammate in the turbocharged Renault. René Arnoux second. Arnoux generously moved aside.
Yes, I have to say that was a horrible manoeuvre by Arnoux. I know that he's acting under team instructions, Murray, that he has to let Jabouille lead, and quite frankly, if I was his team manager, I'd be very cross about that. I'd want to see him, as he was leading down to the first corner, he's got to go with it for at least a lap, and then when everything's clear and easy, let his teammate through, not risk coming together with his teammate or jumping a place from behind, where Jones could have done if he'd known what was coming then. It was really a mistake of inexperience by Arnoux there.
And it looks as though he's got away with it, because he's still in second position. In third place behind him in the white Saudia Leyland Williams car is Alan Jones. In fourth position, it's Jacques Lafitte in the blue and white Ligier Gitane car. Then Carlos Reutemann is in fifth place. Didier Pironi is sixth. Scheckter is seventh. They finished lap 1, 77 to go. And it's Jabouille, Arnoux, Jones, Lafitte, Reutemann, Piquet, and then Scheckter and Jarier going through together. So Jody Scheckter, the world champion in the Ferrari, is in sixth place as he goes through at the end of the first lap into the right-hander at Crowthorne, then from Crowthorne to Barbecue Bend, then up to the left-hander at the Junksky Sweep. And Jean-Pierre Jabouille, who won the French Grand Prix in 1979, only got one Grand Prix victory behind him, needs points in the World Championship, leads the South African Grand Prix from René Arnoux.
Well, the Renault seem to have settled down straight into the lead. They're confirming their practice form, which was utterly dominant. Obviously, they have a huge advantage, probably something in the order of 100 horsepower over all the other cars, with their ability to force their air in and take away the rarefication from which everybody else suffers. But it'll be interesting to see, because with that big advantage, they have presumably worked very hard for reliability. I expect they will have turned their turbocharging boost right down as low as they can. I expect they're running pretty hard tyres, and I'm sure the team's preparation will have concentrated only on finishing rather than speed, which they've obviously got plenty of.
Piquet goes through in sixth position ahead of Jody Scheckter, who is seventh. The leaders, Jabouille, Arnoux, Jones, and that is Elio De Angelis, the young Italian driver in the Lotus, out of the race already on the second lap. He's obviously had a coming together or something close to it. He started right from the back, and you can see he's taken part of the catch fencing with him. So his race is run on the second lap out of 78. With the Renaults in front, and that's Clay Regazzoni in the Unipart Ensign going through the field. He's about halfway down the field of 24 competitors. Now you can see what this Kyalami circuit is like, with the hills in the background. And Jeff Lees, the only Englishman in the race, in the shadow, started in 24th position, just made it at the end of practice, and is well down the field at the moment, but at least he's getting his second Grand Prix drive. And there, the leaders, the two distinctive yellow and white French Renaults from Viry-Châtillon. There is Alan Jones third, Lafitte fourth, Regazzoni in fifth position, Jody Scheckter sixth, Piquet is seventh, and Jarier is in eighth position.
Well, the only real turn-up so far in the race is, of course, Alan Jones has made an absolutely storming start from the fourth row of the grid. In fact, had he not been competing with the two turbocharged cars, he probably would have led into the first corner. If you saw, he pulled right up alongside them, and then their power got the better of things. And at the moment, he seems to be confirming that considerable improvement on form over his practice form, because he's not dropping back too much from the Renaults, although, of course, it's very hard to say just exactly what they're pushing. Jones, in fact, has closed up a little bit since the first couple of laps. If you watch carefully now, you'll see Jones is close now. It's going through the twisty section of the track, and we're coming to the last corner before the big straight sections where the power will tell. This is the second gear corner out onto the main straight. Now, Jones is probably, what, not more than 25 yards behind there. Now, you just have a look and see how far he's behind by the end of this straight, and it gets worse because there's more straight to come after the hairpin at the end of this. Already, he's back to 40 or 50 yards, probably more than 50 now.
So a lap completed, and it is still
no, well, I'm afraid we didn't get the shot at the end of the straight to show how it is, but we'll see the cars round the corner. There are the two Renaults rounding the corner at the end of the straight.
So now into lap 9, and Jacques Lafitte is in third position ahead of Alan Jones, the man who won in the Argentine. And it's Jacques Lafitte versus Alan Jones for third position that we are looking at now. The Frenchman who won the Argentine and Brazilian Grand Prix last year went on to win a third victory. At one time was tipped for the World Championship until the Ligier went sour last year. And Alan Jones challenging hard in the Williams, the Frank Williams Grand Prix engineering car. And that's Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever, the young Italian-American driver in the Osella, in only his second Grand Prix, struggling out of the car, which he failed to qualify in the Argentine and Brazil, but it's been lightened and modified. He qualified for this race extremely well, and he's limping. He's obviously bashed his leg. And Cheever out of the race, and this is Patrick Depailler, who came back magnificently to qualify 7th fastest in practice. And in the background, it's Gilles Villeneuve. That's the Ferrari in the background of Gilles Villeneuve, who's coming to the pits, and there he is, out. Gilles Villeneuve then in trouble already in the Ferrari, and Ferraris have yet to finish a race this year, neither Scheckter nor Villeneuve that we're looking at now. Villeneuve, who won 3 Grand Prix last year and finished second in the World Championship, has yet to finish a race in 1980. Now, have the Ferraris got their reliability back? That's Patrick Depailler, still in the pits, who drove for Ligier last year, won in Spain, broke both his legs with a very nasty hang gliding accident, but is now out. And that's Riccardo Patrese. Patrese, the Italian, in the arrows at Crowthorne Corner. It must be his brakes or tyres failing, perhaps, but well and truly off.
Well, they're going down like ninepence at the moment, Murray, which is most unfortunate because we've got a bit of a processional race on our hands right now, but of course there's a long way to go and things can liven up. It's interesting to me what you were saying about Ferrari just now with Villeneuve back in the pits, and they haven't had a finish yet this year. Well, of course, you know, one can't say that their reliability is gone yet. There's an awful lot of luck involved in motor racing, and I'm quite sure that Ferrari are handling all their preparation, and particularly their engineering, in exactly the same way as they have done since '74 when they had hardly a breakdown. If you remember, Schecter's car didn't break down last year. Things go up and down in waves, and that's one of the frustrating things about motor racing for participants, be you on the design side, the driving side, or the management side. It just seems to be things always happen in patches.
Lap 11 out of 78, and we look at the 2 Renaults reliably punching their way round in front. Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the Frenchman, 37 years old, from Paris, and his teammate, number 16, 31-year-old René Arnoux from Magny-Cours in his 21st Grand Prix, of which he has won one. Arnoux, there is Jabouille, and that is Alan Jones. Alan Jones, who is in 4th position. There is Jacques Lafitte ahead of him in 3rd position. That's how close the battle is between the Ligier in 3rd position, as again, it's not a happy day for Alfa Romeo. This is the 179 Alfa Romeo, and it's the Frenchman Patrick Depailler on his comeback drive with his repaired legs, as it were, working well, as we look at Jarier, number 3 in the new 010 Tyrrell, against Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, battling for 7th position, and behind them is Pironi. So the 7th, 8th and 9th men are together, and Jody Scheckter seems to be missing. There is Jarier in the Tyrrell, Piquet behind him in the Brabham, Pironi behind him in the Ligier, very close, and Jody Scheckter in the pits. Was in 6th position. Now you can see how the driver virtually lies down in a Formula One car, body top off. So Jody Scheckter is mirroring perhaps whatever the trouble his teammate Villeneuve. In the light blue shirt is Mauro Forgieri, the car's designer and the Ferrari team chief, shouting as ever because he scorns the conventional electronic means, and it's a very, very leisurely pit stop. Is Jody Scheckter going out again or not? Yes is the answer. So Scheckter accelerates out of the pits.
They didn't look very confident there, Murray. They didn't seem to be in much of a hurry, so I would think that he's just going out to give the car a try to decide if it's terminal or not. In fact, as Villeneuve goes through right beside him, so we'll see how Jody keeps up with him after that little stop. And there go the leaders, the 2 Renaults, still cruising along on their way comfortably ahead, with Arnoux being an immaculate number 2 man and sitting just nicely behind Jabouille, waiting to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong for his team leader.
18 cars left in this race now on the 15th lap out of the 24 that started. Eddie Cheever crashed out of the race. Elio De Angelis in the catch netting. Both of them apparently perfectly all right. As we look at the Argentine driver, Ricardo Zunino, who is the team mate of Piquet in the Brabham. Jody Scheckter being passed by Jacques Lafitte, who is in third position. And so Scheckter must be in trouble and perhaps coming into the pits again, because it looks to me from the way, yes, he's crossing the line as Lafitte takes the racing line, and Jody Scheckter with the body of the car flexing in front, probably nothing particularly significant about that. But Jody Scheckter, who's defending his world championship, is having just as much trouble this year as Andretti, the defending champion, had last year. And Jody Scheckter into the pits. Now, out. Jody Scheckter's retiring, out of the car, his third time in 3 races, and that's the same for both Ferraris, who failed to finish in all 3 Grand Prix. And the leaders end yet another lap, chasing and about to lap Villeneuve. Jabouille goes through and past Villeneuve. No, he doesn't. Villeneuve holds the line. Arnoux closes up on Jabouille.
I think that demonstrates really how much the Renault drivers are stroking it. Villeneuve actually made room very politely and correctly to let the 2 Renaults through, and I think Jabouille also driving very intelligently, not pushing it at all. I think they're just simply using the power of their engines on the straights, cruising it round the corners, no late braking, no going in quickly with any sort of a risk. Just turn up the wick down the straight and let the turbocharger do the work. And of course, it was interesting to note that the Renault team manager before the race made an announcement to the effect that they'd strictly decided Jabouille was the team leader, although Arnoux was ahead of him on points because Jabouille was unlucky enough to break down while leading in Brazil, and that Jabouille, if they were running 1-2, Jabouille would be in front. That's Derek Daly going out of the pits. I don't know what his trouble was in his Tyrrell, but with the Renault situation being very, very simple in that Arnoux would have to hold hard behind Jabouille.
So Daly on his way in 0-1-0 Tyrrell, and in this 78 lap, Jabouille leads after 20 laps. Arnoux second, Lafitte third, Jones fourth, Reutemann fifth, and Jean-Pierre Jarier in the other Tyrrell in 6th position. And the leaders coming up now to Jeff Lees, number 17, the Englishman in the shadow, the man who drove in 1 Grand Prix for the Tyrrell team last year, an ex-Formula Ford champion 3 times over, and is now driving in America in Can-Am races, and very much tipped henceforth for a proper Grand Prix seat, because he's impressed considerably in practice here at Kyalami. Now, Jabouille laps him, and that's Jacques Lafitte in 2nd position as we look at the white car go round the corner and down the straight towards us. Jacques Lafitte is in 2nd position. He's lapped Daly, and he's now well ahead of Alan Jones, who is in 4th position. And it's Jean-Pierre Jabouille as we look at Jacques Lafitte.
It's Jacques Lafitte is 3rd. We've got the 2 Renaults in front of him, and Reutemann is 4th.
So, yes, Jabouille, the 37-year-old driver, by no means the oldest in the race, incidentally. And there is the 3rd place man, Jacques Lafitte, passing Jeff Lees as the 2 Renaults did a few hundred yards back. Jacques Lafitte trying very, very hard indeed, and I do believe he's starting to make somewhat of an impression. That's how close it is. There are the 2 Renaults. There is the Ligier ahead of Jeff Lees, and Jeff Lees has got Daly behind him. Now, can Jacques Lafitte do anything about the 2 turbocharged Renaults in front of him?
Well, one sincerely hope so, Murray, but I do get the feeling that the Renaults are playing a bit with the opposition, because Lafitte and Jones, of course, have both gone very before him, have both been obviously driving flat out throughout the race, and the gap has sort of gone up and down. The Renaults have gone pulled out a bit, came back a bit, pulled out a bit, and it rather looks as if Jabouille is playing with the opposition. Not a set of tactics that I would employ if I was in his happy position. I'd want to try and, without taking any risks or pushing it, I'd want to build up a 20 or 30 second lead, so that if I get a slow puncture or some other problem with the car that slows you rather than kills you, I'd be able to use that as a cushion later in the race. If you're just a couple of seconds in front, what can you do if something slows you down a bit? But we've had one of the interesting features already, certainly from the enthusiast point of view, people amongst our audience who follow motorsport carefully, has been a huge political row that's erupted here in Kyalami, and that's to do with changes of regulations. Now, as you no doubt know, one of the main features of Grand Prix racing over the last season has been its one-sidedness, in that the car performances have been widely variant, and certainly some cars have dominated. Not all the same ones, but we've lost our close racing. This is hit today. It's a problem because of the turbocharged engines, but normally it's been. This is Gilles Villeneuve in the pits, so it looks like Ferrari have really concluded it as another disastrous day for them, and very much, yes, that's the retirement for Villeneuve. Now, as I was saying about this row, we've got a problem with the skirts. The big breakthrough in performance has been through the aerodynamics, and we have things called skirts on the sides of the cars which run along the road. You can see them on a side shot. There, the other side of the car is actually touching the road. It's spring-loaded, and this flows all the air under the car, and by some clever trickery that the designers have dreamt up underneath the car, they get a terrific vacuum created, and it makes them very fast. The only thing is, it's a new science, and nobody really knows what makes one fast and the other not fast, which is why we've got these big gaps. Now, the powers that be, unfortunately, have gone into a big battle on this subject, and instead of cooperating to bring the cars back to reasonable performance, there is general concern that the cars are too fast. We've had the constructors helpfully making suggestions to reduce performance, and then we've had their traditional political enemies vying for control of Grand Prix racing, and that is the international body, who is now called FISA. I'm not quite sure what it stands for, but somebody I no doubt will know. And they have given really a sort of a challenge statement. They've ignored the set of suggestions that the working body for Formula One, comprising the constructors and other people involved, made, and just come out with a set of new rules that's going to arrive too early, breaking the rules about how soon they can be implemented, and the constructors have just simply said, no way, we're going to fight that, and we're back to politics. They've basically announced that skirts will be banned from the beginning of next season onwards, and the constructors have said we just don't accept that, mainly because there's as much politics as reality in this, and it's a great pity for Grand Prix racing that the two bodies are fighting each other yet again, because Grand Prix racing does need a major rethink for the regulations to get racing back to being more equal and exciting.
Alan Jones out. So with Lafitte closing on Jabouille and Arnoux, there is the car of the man that is leading the World Championship, the Australian Alan Jones, in his Saudi Williams car. Leyland car is out of the race, and that incidentally is not Alan Jones marching about on the bank in the flame-proof overalls and the helmet. It is one of the South African marshals who is very sensibly clad for his job. Alan Jones, first in the Argentine, leading the World Championship out of the race. So now, there, politics or no, the two skirted Renaults of Jean-Pierre Jabouille under the banner to start another lap. And there in the background is Jacques Lafitte, with Arnoux in the white helmet in second position. And Jacques Lafitte is definitely gaining, and that's in the red and white car that Jabouille is gaining on, is from Belfast, John Watson in the McLaren M29, and he is going to be lapped shortly by Jean-Pierre Jabouille and René Arnoux. And Watson is having a terrible season in 1980, as he did in 1979. He's going to be lapped by the Renaults, and that is Depailler again. On the right in the white shirt and the bald head is Engineer Chiti, the designer of the car. There is Jacques Lafitte, who is in third position, definitely at this point in the race catching the leaders. He was a lot further back. He's closed the gap. It's a question of whether the Renaults, which are still gaining on Watson, and there is Lafitte out of the right-hander and into the long straight on his way down to Crowthorne. This very experienced French driver in the Ford-powered car, 3-litre engine, is gaining on the Renaults. They're driving as a team, the two Frenchmen in front, the Frenchman in third position as well. And what's the driver's reaction, I wonder, to all these skirt problems that we've been hearing about?
Well, their reaction has been very fierce as well. I was just going to come to that, Murray. What's happened is that the two, as I say, potential governing bodies are fighting and failing to agree. Meanwhile, the drivers who, led by Jody Scheckter, have been cheering very strongly for reducing the performance of cars, both from the safety point of view and in the hope that it'll make racing more equal, and their own personal skills can be put into effect rather than having a lot of designers doing it all from their home office. And but the only thing is the constructors have been leaning on their individual drivers to not support a ban on skirts, and we've had a major split in the Drivers' Association. I believe we've had 3 of the top drivers walk out on the association. I won't name them for the moment because I don't have full confirmation of exactly who it is or anything, but we've had at least 3 top drivers walk out on the association, as I have to say, egged on by their teams, and largely those drivers are drivers who, of course, have cars that do very well with skirts. And so one of the big problems with politics in Grand Prix racing is that people tend, of course, to fight for what's good for them rather than what's good for Grand Prix racing in the sport, which is a fairly reasonable, normal thing to do. But the guy who has a winning car at the front obviously wants to keep it that way, and the guy who's at the back obviously wants cars changed, and it makes an untenable situation.
And there is Carlos Reutemann, the Argentinian driver, in 4th position in the Saudia Leyland Williams car, Ford engine V8. And Reutemann, an enormous amount of Grand Prix experience. He has driven for Ferrari, he has driven for Brabham, he's driven for Lotus, and now he's in the Williams team. He has won 9 Grand Prix, but he hasn't finished in one in 1980 yet, because he had trouble both in the Argentine and in Brazil. However, he's going well in this race in 4th position. The 2 leaders in the Renaults driving so reminiscently of Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson in the Lotuses in 1978, just driving round at the front of the race together. Into the pits now, Bruno Giacomelli, the Formula 2 European champion of 1978, who drove for McLaren in 1 or 2 races and is now in the Alfa Romeo team. And like his teammate Patrick Depailler, is having quite a lot of trouble in this race, which they are now obviously using in the Alfa Romeo team as an extended test session, and rightly so. The rear wing off, so perhaps there is trouble with the gearbox down there. And the Alfa Romeo designer, team manager, leans over the car as Piquet now in 6th position. Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BT48 with the Ford V8 engine, unlike last year's car which had the V12 Alfa Romeo engine. The Brazilian is in 6th position ahead of Didier Pironi, and that is Pironi in the Ligier, the Frenchman, who is going very quickly indeed and is definitely gaining on Piquet. This is the battle in the race at the present moment. The battle between Pironi in the Ligier there, number 25, who is in 7th position, and ahead of him, Nelson Piquet in 6th position. Pironi, 4th in Brazil, driving for the Ligier team this year, where last year he drove for Tyrrell and had 1 or 2 very notable drives, including the one where he drove over the back of Niki Lauda's car at Brabham. And there is Piquet going through, there is Pironi going through, and here are the leaders. And Jacques Lafitte has now dropped back. Look, the leaders are clear of the corner, and Jacques Lafitte is not even in sight.
Yeah, well, I do hope, Murray, that the South African director who's handling this for us here is going to come back to that battle between Piquet and Pironi, because they are undoubtedly the only guys really going hard at it in the race. They're 2. There's Depailler going back to the pits again. The Alfa's in and out of the pits all afternoon. But these two young drivers, Piquet and Pironi, they're both 2 of the leading up-and-comers at the moment, and they're a couple of real tigers, and it's very visible that they're both absolutely on 10/10ths out there at the moment.
And this lot is Clay Regazzoni in the Ensign, Derek Daly in the Tyrrell, and the 2 leaders. And now you will see tactics and the way the leading ace drivers deal with the other ace drivers who are not leading. There is the Swiss 40-year-old oldest driver in the race, Clay Regazzoni, who has driven for Ferrari, has won 5 Grand Prix, including the British Grand Prix for the Saudia Williams team last year. And now the 2 Renaults are clear of the Tyrrell, and they're closing up on Clay Regazzoni. Regazzoni in the Ensign, which has yet to finish a race. It's a brand new Ralph Bellamy designed car. Didn't finish in the Argentine, didn't finish in Brazil. Looks as though it is going to finish in this race, which is now approximately 2/3 of the way through the full 78 laps. On the right then, number 14 in the Unipart Ensign, Regazzoni. Watch the leaders close up on him and take him.
Yes, here's the power of the Renault just showing itself yet again. Jabouille walks past Regazzoni on the straights. Interesting note though, we'll see if the drivers have done their homework, because Regazzoni in fact is one man who, when lapping, when you've got a comfortable lead, you give a pretty wide berth to and treat with a certain amount of respect. So we will see if Arnoux does that and just takes his time, because he obviously should be realising that he's got no possible rush. He's no longer under pressure from Lafitte, and in fact he is taking his time. He's not rushing into it. He's still not having a go, and we're now coming into the twisty section of the track, so I think he's driving very intelligent indeed. He's doing the right thing. He's just simply going to wait till the end of the lap and use his turbocharged power on the straight, which of course will take him comfortably past him with no risk. That's a very sensible piece of driving by René Arnoux, who of course is pretty young and inexperienced. He won his first Grand Prix in Brazil last week, but it takes a while to do these, and I think that's a most sensible effort.
And the knowledgeable amongst you will notice that the Renaults have got fins on the front of their nose cones. That's because they've got such an excess of power as Arnoux goes past Clay Regazzoni. Very few cars in this race, and just to prove me wrong, Clay Regazzoni has them on the Ensign, I see, have nose fins, because most of them have left them off to get extra speed down the straight. But the Renaults have got so much power, and that is Jarier into the pits. Look at the flat spot on the tyre, but they're changing the rear tyre.
Well, I think Jarier must have had a very high-speed spin there. You can see on the top of the left front tyre there's a big patch. Now that is a flat spot, and the left rear was punctured and flat when he came in. So what happens is when you spin at high speed and you hit the brakes to keep the car, although spinning, going in a straight line with its momentum, if that's what you want to do. Of course, it's rather like locking your brakes up from 180 miles an hour. The tyres stay still and just wear out. They even wear big holes in on that one spot. But they, yes, you can see the right front over there with the gap, with the flat spot in. They're not changing. I think this must be a mistake by the Tyrrell team. Jarier has obviously caught them unprepared and surprised, and they're sending him out with a flat spot on, which will undoubtedly, if nothing else, will shake his eyeballs in their sockets. He won't even be able to see well, because the vibration will be huge.
There's the position. Jabouille leads, Arnoux, Lafitte, Reutemann, Piquet, and in sixth position, Didier Pironi. And significantly, there are 4 Frenchmen in the first 6 places in the South African Grand Prix, with 57 out of the 78 laps completed, but still a long way to go. And it's significant that drivers seem to be coming in now with tyre troubles. Both the makes of tyres, the French tyres and the American tyres, have been giving some sort of trouble, and both of them have had to be changed. So, could anything happen to the leaders or the placemen behind them? It's Jabouille, it's Arnoux in second position. Jabouille going past Derek Daly there in the 010 Tyrrell. That's Derek Daly, and that's Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg, the Finnish driver in the Skoll Fittipaldi car, last year's Wolf, and he's collected some catch fencing, and his race is obviously very much finished for today. And that is the leader. That is Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the Frenchman in the Renault, and the right front tyre is right off the rim. And Arnoux has gone through into the lead. Cruel luck for Jabouille, because exactly the same thing happened to him in Brazil. He had to retire when he was in the lead, and it looks as though the fates are against the Frenchman so far in 1980 anyway. And so that means that with Jabouille and his Renault out of the race, the Renault hopes now rest solely on the slight young shoulders of René Arnoux, as we look at Keke Rosberg's car being pushed away out of the circuit and away from the catch fencing.
Well, that's a tragic luck for Jean-Pierre Jabouille. We've got the leader, René Arnoux, out there in the picture now, but looks to me like a repeat of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Jabouille qualified on the pole, led the race comfortably, pulling away. He had an unfortunate breakdown there when in the lead. It's always sad to break down when you're leading, and Arnoux picked up the pieces, and we seem to be having as another tyre problem. Derek Daly has obviously had a blowout. Now he's on Goodyear tyres, so that shouldn't affect the situation for the Renaults who are running Michelins. And I would say that despite this big problem with tyres, the other teams, other than the Renault team, would be running probably fairly marginal compounds to try and keep up with the Renaults. I'm quite sure Renault would have backed a fairly conservative choice of tyre compound for the race, and for that reason I think it's probably a fault on that tyre with Jabouille's car, or maybe ran over something, picked up a puncture, other than a likelihood necessarily for Arnoux.
And we're looking at Piquet versus Pironi for 4th place. Piquet in the Brabham, and into the pits comes Reutemann. Reutemann in 3rd position, didn't finish in the Argentine, didn't finish in Brazil, and it's tyre troubles again for Carlos Reutemann.
We've lost the battle. Pironi was lined up then onto the straight in the perfect position to try and get past Piquet in front of him, and now we're looking at Reutemann in the pits and missing all the action. I'm afraid television in South Africa is only about 4 years old, and it shows.
And out of the pits goes Carlos Reutemann, and there the leader, René Arnoux, the man from Magny-Cours, in the Renault, driving very, very steadily. He has, of course, got an enormous cushion between himself and the second place man, Jacques Laffite. Behind Jacques Laffite, the battle between Piquet and Pironi for 3rd position. And there, at the end of lap 66, Arnoux leads Laffite, Piquet 3rd, Pironi 4th. Mars in the arrows is in 5th position, and then Carlos Reutemann, and you're looking at the battle, and it's Piquet ahead of Pironi at the moment. Nelson Piquet in 3rd position in the BT48 Ford-powered Brabham, being chased very hard indeed by Didier Pironi. And back to the leader, and it's René Arnoux.
Please come back, Mr. Director, sir. We do want to see the race that's going on. There is only one race going on here, and we don't seem to be watching it at the moment, which is really a great shame.
But the leader, Arnoux, on his way, and he's closing up. Arnoux is closing up on John Watson in the McLaren again to lap him. Laffite in 2nd place. There is the Renault, over 500 horsepower. There's the McLaren, and behind the Renault is one of the Alfa Romeo cars. There is Arnoux, closing right up now on number 7, John Watson from Bognor Regis. This is his 96th Grand Prix, and there are rumours of the English driver Stephen South having a place in the McLaren team soon, as we look at Jacques Laffite in 2nd position. This is Jacques Laffite in the Ligier, so it's Laffite in 2nd position, and it's Pironi. That is Didier Pironi, and he's got ahead of Piquet.
Well, where is Piquet? Piquet isn't behind or in front. Are we sure he hasn't dropped back on him?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but Didier Pironi has moved up into 3rd place, and somebody off at Crowthorne, and it's Jeff Lees. It's Jeff Lees, number 17, the driver from Cliff near Tamworth in only his 2nd Grand Prix. The shadow out of the race, and it looks as though it's been saved by the bank and the crash fencing as we go into the last lap with René Arnoux, who has put up the fastest lap, 1 minute 13.15, 123.1 miles an hour. Jacques Laffite is 34 seconds behind Arnoux in 2nd position, and Arnoux's speed in his fastest lap is over 123 miles an hour. In 3rd position is Didier Pironi in 4th position, and Piquet in the Brabham is in 4th position, and Arnoux there has lapped everybody up to Nelson Piquet in 4th position, because he has lapped Carlos Reutemann in the Saudi Leyland Williams car. He has lapped Jochen Maas, who is in 6th position, and he's now well on his way to the checkered flag for the 2nd Grand Prix in succession. Jacques Laffite there, number 26 in the Ligier, is in 2nd place, and in 3rd place place the other Ligier, Pironi. So it's going to be French car and driver first, French drivers second and third, French cars second and third. The leader, the winner, René Arnoux, over the line, and he has won the South African Grand Prix of 1980 as he won the Brazilian Grand Prix of 1980. So, as Jacques Lafitte finishes second, the results. The winner, René Arnoux. Second, Lafitte. Third, Pironi. Fourth, Nelson Piquet. Fifth, Reutemann. And sixth, Jochen Maas in the arrows. And that, of course, changes the World Championship positions because, thanks to his win, René Arnoux moves into the lead by 5 points from Alan Jones. Third, Piquet. Fourth, Pironi. And fifth, equal, Elio De Angelis and Lafitte. And the man at the top at the moment is René Arnoux.
It's fantastic for me and for Renault.
How did you feel when you saw Jean-Pierre Jabouille pulling into the side?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I know what this has a problem because when I am behind Jean-Pierre, I see the car like that, and I think that is a puncture. But for me, at this moment, the car is very good, and I don't know. I have no problem for the race.
And as you've just said, René, you're top of the World Championship with 18 points. Did you expect at the beginning of this season that you'd be in this position in South Africa?
No, because in Argentina is very difficult for Renault, but after for the Brazil and here, the car is very, very fantastic. And I am very happy with my team because he worked very hard. There is many tests in France, and you win when you work very hard.
You must have been pleased when you saw Alan Jones parked by the side.
Pas compris.
When you saw Alan Jones arrêté,
Yeah.
you were very happy.
Yeah, but it's not my problem because I have seen the car, but I don't know if it's Jones or Reutemann. The more important for me is to finish the race.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
René Arnoux.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, the South African Grand Prix was not at all a happy race for Ferrari. Scheckter and Villeneuve out. Not at all happy for Lotus, De Angelis and Andretti out. Not all that happy for Williams, with only Reutemann in 5th position. But for Renault and for Ligier and for France, a marvellous day, with 4 French drivers in the first 6. In a month's time, Long Beach on March the 30th. Not so easy for the turbos. We'll be there on Grand Prix, so join us for round 4, BBC 2, March the 30th. Long Beach in California is America's Monaco, a street circuit which twists and turns its way through the city and along the seashore past the landlocked Queen Mary Hotel. To do well on the 2-mile lap, the car needs good brakes, good traction and a very strong transmission. And the driver needs stamina, for the race is a really grueling 80 laps. In the World Championship, it's been Renault's year so far, with René Arnoux leading after 2 wins. Alan Jones, barely recovered from pleurisy in the Williams, is second. then Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, Didier Pironi in the Ligier, his teammate Jacques Lafitte and Lotus's Elio De Angelis. But without a point between them so far are the two Ferrari drivers, world champion Jody Scheckter and last year's winner Gilles Villeneuve. Neither has had a good practice, and as they wait to start the warm-up lap, it's the Brabham of Piquet in pole position. Alongside him, René Arnoux going for a hat-trick after winning in Brazil and South Africa. Row 2, a real surprise, Patrick Depailler in the Alfa Romeo and Dutchman Jan Lammers in the ATS. Row 3, Alan Jones and the second Alfa with Bruno Giacomelli. Then Reutemann and Patrese ahead of Pironi and Villeneuve. And there are 3 drivers from Great Britain who have not qualified. Stephen South, Jeff Lees and Dave Kennedy from Ireland. So on they go to the warm-up lap.
Well, the interesting thing for this race, the big question mark, I think, Murray, is really whether the Renault can go well on a street circuit. They've already proved their terrific dominance with their powerful turbocharged engine on the fast circuits. We haven't seen them with their new car on a slow circuit yet since they introduced it in the middle of last season. And if they can go well here, if the Renault, who is already on the front row, albeit with a slightly messy practice because the circuit got very oily and it's not a truly representative grid for form, but if it can go well here, then we have to say that, quite frankly, the World Championship looks well wrapped up for Renault. But despite his front row position, the question mark does remain, and we have to wait and see what happens in the race.
And we haven't got very long to wait because the 24 cars are now coming up to the start point. Indeed, there is Nelson Piquet in the Brabham on the left. On your right, René Arnoux in the 1.5-litre turbocharged Renault. In the background, in the Scarlet Alfa Romeo, the Frenchman Patrick Depailler. A brilliant practice drive. And now the revs rising. It's going to be a long, grueling race, and away they go for 80 laps. And that's a long, long way around this Long Beach circuit. A long shoreline drive and down to Queen's Hairpin, a very slow right-hander. Here they are coming towards us. It's Piquet leading. On the right is Arnoux second, then Depailler in third position, and somebody on the right has hit the wall. Somebody has hit the wall on the right. It's one of the Brabhams. It's Zunino. It's Ricardo Zunino, the Argentinian driver, and he's obviously quite all right from the athletic way that he's leaping out of the race. And his teammate Nelson Piquet leads from Patrick Depailler. There is the Brabham. In second position, the Alfa Romeo. In third position, it is René Arnoux.
Yes, well, with the pressure of street circuit, where overtaking is so difficult, it's really always tends to be a big scrum at the first corner. And as usual, we've had a little bit of bumping and boring in the middle. Andretti seems to have taken off there. It looks like Andretti's car, and Zunino seems to have been the person who came off worse and got bumped into the wall there. In fact, that was quite a small shunt for a first lap thing at a street circuit like this, where they've really got to stake everything on getting a good place out of the first corner.
And on the far side of the circuit, Nelson Piquet in the immaculate Brabham BT49 has got a clear track in front of him. Patrick Depailler behind him in second position. Ricardo Zunino well and truly out of the race. René Arnoux in third position, and the turbocharged Renault going well under these difficult circumstances. There in fourth place, look for the white car of Alan Jones. There he is. Fifth is Giacomelli, sixth is Patrese, seventh Reutemann, and in eighth place it's still Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari. And now you can see how like Monaco this Long Beach circuit is in terms of characteristics, because it's very, very twisty and tremendously demanding. And watch the accuracy with which Piquet, the leader, and the rest behind him place their cars. Because if you put a car an inch or so out of position here, you can hit a wall, one of those concrete barriers, and that can be very final indeed as far as the wheels are concerned. Piquet leads. Depailler second, plunging downhill. Piquet in only his second season of Grand Prix racing, and look at this for speed. This is a comparatively slow part of the circuit, and look how quickly they're going. The two Tyrrells about halfway down the field, going through the town. That's Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti, who won this race in 1977, world champion in 1978, there in the Lotus 81. looks to me as though he's out of contention, because Bob Dance, the chief mechanic, has his hand on the steering wheel and is pushing the car, and Mario Andretti is out. Nelson Piquet still leading, coming towards us now, and in second position it's Depailler, and Alan Jones is up into third place ahead of René Arnoux, and somebody's spinning. It's Giacomelli. Giacomelli in the red Alfa Romeo has spun, and we're not looking at it. There is Depailler second, Jones third, Arnoux fourth, and I imagine that Giacomelli will have got his car going again with difficulty, and the leaders are bearing down on that corner now. And look at it, that's Giacomelli on the left. On the right, in the white car, is Reutemann. They're threading their way through. Behind Reutemann is Jody Scheckter. There's another car behind Scheckter. It's Chiva. And somebody hopping out of his car. He's hurt his leg. It's De Angelis. Elio De Angelis is hopping out of the car as Giacomelli tries to get going again. The problem is, look at the yellow flag being waved in the background. Can they clear the circuit as Carlos Reutemann gesticulates furiously? Get me out of this. Giacomelli gets away. Reutemann is still stationary. There is Scheckter. A wheel. All those cars have got wheels on them, so there must be another car involved in this fracas as Chiva's car is pushed away. Elio De Angelis' car stationary in the background, and any second now the leaders will be arriving, fortunately, to a comparatively clear track. The Lotus is still there. There is the leader, Nelson Piquet first, Patrick Depailler second, Alan Jones third, and René Arnoux fourth. Patrese fifth, and Villeneuve right behind him in sixth position.
Well, Villeneuve seems to be making a very fine charge up the field. He's come right back up from quite a lowly grid position. He's going very well. That shunt has really split the field up too. There seemed to be a big gap, and here we seem to have a replay, but we didn't catch what exactly happened. We saw Giacomelli start to spin, and what I presume happened is he spun, somebody anchored up very hard, and we just had a simply sort of motorway type accident with people piling into each other's backsides. But it's hard to say exactly what happened. The rest, and those are the cars that all piled in were the cars that were immediately following Giacomelli at that time during the race. But that's certainly a great blow for the race, because we've lost the strength of the midfield, quite frankly.
Well, I saw Jarrier's car rolling out of the picture slowly there, and I guess that's the one with the wheel off from the way it was travelling. And we're looking at a car now with four wheels very, very much on it. Nelson Piquet, a long gap. Look, a clear track behind him. Piquet the leader. Jan Lammers, incidentally, the man who did so well in practicing, is out of the race on the very first lap with a clutch trouble, and that's cruel luck. And there's a lot of cars out of this race already. Lap 17, and we're looking at the battle for second place, Depailler and Jones.
Well, Jones has got to do something about Depailler quickly. He's been pressing him for a little while now. He's got to get past him. He's quicker than him, but it's very difficult to pass here, particularly the powerful Alfa. And if he doesn't get past soon, he's going to be in big trouble, because Piquet is just pulling away. And he's going through. That's a wonderful maneuver. I think he fooled Depailler into blocking the inside, and he nipped down the outside, a trick that I tried on Depailler in 1976 and ended up in the wall, but Depailler this time kept well over to the right. That was an exceptionally intelligent piece of driving by Alan Jones. I think he'd been winding him up by feinting down the inside for a few laps, got Depailler able to defend the inside and left the door wide open on the outside. That was great driving by Jones.
So, Alan Jones up to second position. There he is. Car number 27, the Saudi Leyland Williams. Behind him, the Alfa Romeo of Patrick Depailler, who has recovered completely from his hang gliding accident last year, in which he broke both his legs before moving to the Alfa Romeo team from Ligier. And Alan Jones, who won in the Argentine Grand Prix this year and is in second position in the championship, and that is Villeneuve up into fourth position in the Ferrari. He has overtaken Patrese, he has overtaken René Arnoux, and Villeneuve, the man who won last year and broke the lap record, is up into fourth place.
Well, Villeneuve seems to be the man to watch at the moment. He's charged up the field, but I have a suspicion that he's chosen a soft compounded tyre, which is why he's gone very quick early on, because he's steadied out now and he's not moving through the field as fast as he was.
Alan Jones in second position ahead of Depailler. And where is Depailler? Look, there's a long gap now before Depailler, and Depailler hasn't even appeared. Alan Jones seems to be on his own now in second place, having caught up and passed Patrick Depailler. Clear track behind him. Depailler has either dropped back or he's hit trouble. That's a Tyrrell. One of the Candy Tyrrells is Derek Daly. That is Jabouille in the Renault. And there, locking up his wheel, is Villeneuve. So Villeneuve is up a place again. He's up into third position. And we just have news that Patrick Depailler has spun, not out of contention altogether, as you see, but down into fourth position. And René Arnoux is fifth, and Derek Daly, having gone off the course, having overshot a corner, regains it. So Derek Daly on the course, going well in the Tyrrell, and there is Alan Jones, 10 seconds behind Nelson Piquet, catching the midfield men, Regazzoni in the yellow car and Fittipaldi.
Yes, I think that there may have been contact between Derek Daly and Villeneuve then, because Villeneuve, I just noticed, has got a slightly bent front wing. Daly was getting away from being off the track, and they were right together, and Villeneuve was trying to pass him. The leaders now are well in amongst the back markers, which is a big problem at Long Beach and at any street circuit, because whilst you've got to get past them quickly, you can't afford to take any risks, because obviously you're better off being in the race than taking a risk and being out of it. But every time, for instance, Alan Jones now is behind back markers. If he doesn't get through him quickly, Piquet is meanwhile pulling away because he's got a clear road in front of him. He's behind Fittipaldi and Clay Regazzoni in front of him.
Yes, in the yellow car, it's ex-world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, and right behind him is Alan Jones, and number 14 is Clay Regazzoni, who won the British Grand Prix last year at a Williams, and now in an Ensign car for his fourth Grand Prix. Regazzoni and Fittipaldi moves over. Alan Jones goes through on braking and moves up past the 9th place man to close up on the 8th place man, Clay Regazzoni, and in front of Alan Jones still, of course, is Piquet. Villeneuve.
Yes, there is Villeneuve. You can see the bent front wing now. We cheated and had a peek before. He's got a slight kink in the front wing. I don't think that will in fact affect his car's performance at all, and there's quite a good chance that from his position in the cockpit he won't even be able to see that there's any damage to the car.
Well, Gilles Villeneuve using his Long Beach track craft, the winner last year, I remind you, quicker than anybody until this year. Although Nelson Piquet is going very well indeed. There is Villeneuve sandwiched between those two cars, and we have news that Nelson Piquet has broken the lap record, 1 minute 19.8.
Villeneuve's wings collapsed a little bit more. I still don't think that will be a problem for him, because even if it breaks off, it won't be any harm. The rest of the wing seems solid, and a small damage to the front wing like that will be unlikely to seriously affect the performance of the car.
Nelson Piquet leading. This man's coolness is quite incredible, considering his comparative lack of experience. BP Formula 3 champion in Britain the year before last, then to Formula 1, and now he is leading and on his way, seemingly, unless the car breaks down, to winning this Long Beach Grand Prix of 1980. And somebody has decided that Villeneuve was come in, because there he is. That's Villeneuve, who was in third position into the pits.
Yeah, but he's had all 4 tyres changed as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't more the problem with the tyres than with his front wing, Murray, because he was charging through the field very hard to start off with, and then he slowed right down before his wing got damaged. His charge seemed to have come out, so I suspect his tyres were going off.
And
but they're having an awful problem getting that nose on, by the look of things. That was a very slow pit stop, particularly by Ferrari standards, who are noted for being one of the best drilled pit crews in Grand Prix racing.
38 seconds long, and that's too long, I suspect, for Villeneuve, because he's got a terrific amount to make up now. So, as we look at the leader, Nelson Piquet, behind him Alan Jones in second place, and back again to third position in the Renault comes the championship leader Arnoux, and that's Villeneuve's car. Villeneuve is out of the race. Look, it's parked right off the course. Surely it can't be nose cone trouble again. It couldn't put him out of the race. and surely it can't be tyres, but either way, it's yet another Ferrari retirement in this fourth Grand Prix of 1980. Villeneuve, last year's winner, out. Nelson Piquet we are looking at. Alan Jones in second position, so one of the potential threats to young Nelson Piquet in his 23rd Grand Prix and 8 years of driving has been removed. But, and that's Alan Jones's car. What an incredible race this is turning out to be, because Alan Jones, the second place man, second in the World Championship, is out of the race at Queen's Hairpin for some reason we know not, and I hear that Riccardo Patrese has passed René Arnoux and is up into second place. The race is really coming alive.
Yes, well, in fact, it's coming alive in the midfield, Murray, but we've got Nelson Piquet right out in front now because his main threat has gone. Alan Jones was running about 10-12 seconds behind him. Arnoux slowed down a bit. There is Patrese, but he's well behind. And it looks as if Piquet's got a pretty clear run to the flag now. He's just got to look after himself in the car.
Patrese in second place, the ex-double world champion in karts, 6th in Brazil this year, led in South Africa in '78 and then retired. And smoke and dust and debris at Queen's Hairpin. This is where all the action is taking place, and that looks like too much action, because it's Regazzoni. Regazzoni has gone off the course in a big way, and there's a crash tender coming up. There's a car, you can just see through the dust to the left, to the back of the crash tender. The firemen get off. Regazzoni, it's Regazzoni's car, the ensign, and as we look at Nelson Piquet, the problem is, and we're all very worried about it, what has happened to the 40-year-old warrior, Clay Regazzoni. Now we'll see, hopefully, and that is not Regazzoni's car to the left. Regazzoni is still in the car.
Yes, that's Clay's car there.
Regazzoni's still in the car, and sadly it's been a race of crashes, for earlier on there was that dramatic pile-up at Lake Gesomech after Giacomelli spun and brought 5 cars to a standstill. Let's hear from Carlos Reutemann.
Giacomelli made a very big mistake before the straight. He made a spun the car before the hairpin, and he left the gate for all the crew, all the people behind him pass, and he put reverse and closed the gate. The track was absolutely blocked for everybody. It was a complete disaster.
Carlos Reutemann far from pleased with Bruno Giacomelli, and his team leader Alan Jones was put out with the Italian too when he was involved in that incident with Giacomelli, which put the Australian out of the race.
Well, I got behind Giacomelli. There was a group of 3 of them. I think it was Dina Peroni and Jochen Mass and Giacomelli, and I was scared they were going to hold me up, and I got a good tow from him down the back straight. He pulled out of his slipstream to get him on the inside for the Queen's Hairpin. I got my nose alongside him, and then he just turned right and drove over me.
This, of course, isn't the only incident Giacomelli's had this race. Your friend Carlos Reutemann was telling me he hit his car as well.
Yeah, I think he's been given a contract on Team Williams.
Alan Jones talking to Barry Gill, but as we watch the leader, there's news that Regazzoni is conscious and that he's speaking, and that, heaven knows, is good news. And there's the Zanino car, which Regazzoni hit on his way to the background there. Regazzoni's still in the car, and there in the pits, that's the third place man, or was, it's Arnoux changing all his tyres on the Renault. So René Arnoux, who was leading the championship, is slipping out of the points. Lap 79 out of 80. Regazzoni, who was trapped in his car for 25 minutes, has been taken to hospital. He has a broken leg, he has possible spine injuries, but he is conscious and he is speaking. And Elio De Angelis, who crashed earlier on, has only sprained his foot. Nelson Piquet, then, is on his way to victory. He has led from flag to flag with a lap record, and it looks like he's going to win his first Grand Prix.
Well, above all, I do hope that Clay Regazzoni is okay. That looked like a really horrendous accident, and we'll just wait and hope that the news is not too bad when we hear from the hospital properly. In the meantime, Nelson Piquet has really driven an absolutely magnificent race. He's driven he's earned his first win with all the maturity that he's shown previously in his Grand Prix career. He came straight into it and has driven in a really mature fashion right from the start of his Grand Prix career. he handled very hard pressure early in the race. He got away, he did everything right, and then when at about half distance, when everybody dropped out, he was on his own. He slowed right down. He even had the intelligence and the lack of ego to allow himself to be unlapped, or to unlap himself from a couple of cars. He let people through. He was going so slowly, just looking after his lead, looking after himself. He didn't put a foot wrong. The Brabham ran perfectly for him, and it's a very, very well-deserved first win if he can just make it round the rest of the lap.
Out of Pine Avenue and up towards Ocean Boulevard for the 80th and last time. Nelson Piquet must be keeping his fingers crossed, but he hardly need bother because he's home. Nelson Piquet has won the American Grand Prix at Long Beach, his first race in the Brabham BT49, a magnificent drive. His first win in this car. He has driven in several other races before this season, of course. His first Grand Prix win for the young Brazilian, and surely we are going to see very many more because he's got experience way over his years. He took over from ex-world champion Niki Lauda to become team leader under very trying circumstances, and he's more than justified his colours. Brilliant driving. So, to check on the result, 9 wonderful points for the winner, Nelson Piquet. 6 for Riccardo Patrese in second place, and Emerson Fittipaldi gets 4, with John Watson in fourth place, 3 points. Jody Scheckter, the first Ferrari points of 1980, in fifth position, and Jochen Maas makes it 2 arrows in the first 6. That changes the world champion situation because Piquet shares the lead with Arnoux. Alan Jones goes down to third place, but still in striking distance, and Pironi and Patrese share fourth place. So, what a day in the life of Nelson Piquet. Happiness probably like he's never known before, and like he will never know again until perhaps he wins the World Championship, and I suspect that isn't so very far off. Nelson Piquet from Brazil. And in 5 weeks' time, on May the 4th, the 1980 World Championship Series returns to Europe at Zolder in Belgium. And Grand Prix on BBC Two will be there, of course, and we hope you'll be with us. After a mixture of good and bad weather during the 2 days of practicing, thankfully it's bright and dry at Zolder for today's Belgian Grand Prix. And for the first time for far too long, 2 British drivers are competing in a Grand Prix. John Watson's been joined by Tiff Needell, who's qualified the Ensign in place of Clay Regazzoni. And as the 9-race European Grand Prix season starts, the World Championships led jointly by Nelson Piquet in the Brabham and Renault's René Arnoux. 5 points ahead of Alan Jones in the Williams. 4th, Didier Pironi. 5th, Riccardo Patrese. And then a tie for 6th between Elio De Angelis and Jacques Lafitte. Zolder's 2.6-mile lap is mostly flat, with 14 corners and no long straights. So it's very tough on brakes and transmissions. With new rules which restrict the choice of tyres, practice has been dominated by the British Williams and French Ligier teams. In pole position, it's Alan Jones, winner of the Argentine Grand Prix. And next to Alan Jones, a brilliant second fastest on the grid, 28-year-old Didier Pironi, the Frenchman who joined the French Ligier team this year and took a 3rd place in the South African Grand Prix. 3rd fastest, Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier. 2 wins in 1979, 2nd in South Africa this year, but that's been his only finish in 1980. And there's been this change in tyre regulations for 1980, as a result of which the drivers have got less choice about which tyres they can use during the race, and that's bound to affect the performance of some of the cars. So Jacques Laffite in third position on the grid, and alongside him in fourth position, the Argentine driver Carlos Reutemann in the second of the two Williams cars. It's his fifth race, but he's only had one finish this year. On in row three, the Frenchman, the unlucky Frenchman, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the Renault team leader. First in France in 1979. 2 pole positions this year in Brazil and South Africa, but no wins. And alongside him, his teammate, in contrast, 2 wins this year. René Arnoux in the Renault, the man who leads the World Championship. And next is the man who shares the championship lead with him, number 5, Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. And so there we are then, and down in 14th position on the grid, world champion Jody Scheckter. So, James Hunt, what's been Jody's problem?
Well, I don't think Jody's had any problems, really, Murray, this year. He's driving the same. It's a question of the car, quite simply. The Ferrari team's fortunes have gone off a bit. If you observed last year, it wasn't the fastest car around last year. They picked up mainly on other people's misfortunes and their own good run of luck, and that helped them very much, the championship, and the steady driving by Jody. His relative position on the grid to Villeneuve is very much the same as last year, which means his performance is very much the same as ever. It's just the car.
So, a check on the grid. In pole position, Alan Jones, Williams. In second position, Pironi, Ligier. Third, Laffite, Ligier. Fourth, Reutemann in the other Williams. Fifth, Jabouille in the Renault. Then Arnoux in the Renault. Nelson Piquet in 7th position in the Brabham. And in 11th place, row 6 on the grid, Derek Daly. And Jeff Lees, the other British driver, did not qualify in the shadow. So the grid is clearing. There are 70,000 spectators to watch the Belgian Grand Prix. The warm-up lap is completed. It's good, dry conditions for record speeds. 72 laps, 191 miles, 24 starters and some 12,000 bhp. And this is the start we're waiting for. Jacques Laffite had a terrific start, but it's Pironi first, and in second position Alan Jones, then Laffite, then Reutemann, then Arnoux, and then Nelson Piquet in the Brabham in 6th position as they go round the Sterrewacht and onto the canal turn. Didier Pironi in the Ligier is leading his first Grand Prix. Behind him, Alan Jones, then Jacques Laffite. So it's Ligier's first and third. Reutemann fourth, so it's Williams' second and fourth. There's the yellow Renault of René Arnoux in 5th place. And Jean-Pierre Jabouille has had a problem at the start. His arm went up and the second Renault driver seems to be in trouble. Streaming through the chicane on lap 1. Pironi round the far side of the course at Terlamen, 4th gear, absolutely flat out, then accelerating away down to the Boulderberg. It's Pironi leading Jones, leading Laffite in 3rd position, Reutemann still 4th, Arnoux still 5th, and Piquet still in 6th position. The second chicane. Each lap, 2.65 miles into lap 2, and it's still the two Ligiers sandwiching the Williams as we look down from the helicopter into the straight, into the Sterrewacht, which is a 2nd gear corner, and Didier Pironi is holding that first position magnificently on the 2nd lap. It's a long, demanding, trying race. The Belgian Grand Prix Zolder circuit is especially demanding on brakes and transmissions. That's the Albert Canal in the background, and we look at, first of all, that's Jabouille. Jean-Pierre Jabouille looks as though he is out of the race. Cruel luck for the Frenchman.
Yeah, and now we've got a chance to have a look at the start again in slow motion. You'll see that on the left, on the front of the grid, is Didier Pironi, who got a very good start, better than Alan Jones on the staggered grid, and he's done a very sensible thing. He got nearly a length, he got enough time to move over and squeeze Jones for the inside, lean on him to ensure that he wasn't going to dive down him inside into the first corner. Apart from that, it was a clean start with no shunts, which was a very good thing on this particularly narrow start line.
We rejoin on lap 2, and there's the 4th man, Reutemann, 5th, Arnoux, 6th, Piquet, then there's Jarier, and going through Villeneuve and Depailler, and Lammers, and Daly, and Jody Scheckter, and coming up at the back in the yellow car, and that's Maas. Jochen Maas's Arrows is out of the race already. The German driver out as we go into lap 3, and there is the gap as the leaders go through, and it's still no change. The fight is for the lead between Pironi, Ligier, Alan Jones, the man who won the first Grand Prix in the Argentine this year and who has won 6 Grand Prix already, and in 3rd position is Lafitte. Alan Jones has had 2 retirements. He desperately needs World Championship points. 1st, 2nd, Jones. Up to the chicane. This is lap 3, 72 lap race. There is Reutemann, Arnoux, Piquet, Jarier in 7th position through the chicane. And you can see that the first 3, and we look at them now as they come up from the chicane, up to Terlamen again, there is a gap between the first 3 and then the battle for 4th position. And there is Reutemann and Arnoux as we look at the leaders again. 4th, 5th, 6th, Arnoux, Piquet. There is De Angelis, Villeneuve, and that's Depailler spinning as Jan Lammers comes through, and Daly and Scheckter. We can't see what's happened to Depailler, but he's clearly spun. He was in 10th position, the man who led last year in the Ligier, Tiffany Dell, number 14, the Englishman, and through into lap 4, no change, still Pironi. And this is a challenge for Didier Pironi. Terrific pressure on him. This is the first Grand Prix he has led. He has an open track in front of him, but he's got terrific pressure behind him. Along the back straight, into the chicane, 2nd gear, this is the chicane. Into 3rd as they pull out, and it's Pironi. See, he uses every inch of the track, as does Jones and Lafitte. They're very close. Then there's Reutemann, no change there. Still Arnoux in 5th position. Still Piquet and Jarier closing up on Piquet and Arnoux. And Jarier in the Candy Tyrrell is in 7th place. And what a mercy the weather's as good as it was. Yesterday in practice, the rain beat down, the wind blew. We feared terrible conditions for the race itself, but mercifully they're very good indeed. So the leader's going away from the, and that's Jean-Pierre Jabouille out of the race. Off comes his balaclava helmet. The man who has had 4 retirements out of 5 races, and the man who developed the Renault. Bitter, bitter luck for him. Back to the race, and it's still Pironi. Look, he's extending his lead, and it looks to me as though Jacques Lafitte is closing up on 27 in the Saudi Alaylam Williams car, Alan Jones. James.
Yes, what seems to be happening now, as the race started, we had a clear picture, the same form as last year. The Ligiers and the Williamses were quite definitely superior chassis at this circuit. But what seems to be happening now is, the significance is that Reutemann is struggling away in 4th place. The 2 Ligiers are pressing, and I would say that the Ligier is definitely working a little bit better than the Williams. Alan Jones, instead of being up there pressing Pironi for the lead, as the Williams supporters would have hoped, is now under pressure from Lafitte, and he seems to be clinging on. As I say, Reutemann's steady dropping back implies that, on balance, the Williams is not working quite as well as the Ligier.
Well, Alan Jones that we're looking at now is in 3rd place in the World Championship, and he is ahead of both the people who are in front of him in the World Championship, that is to say René Arnoux and Nelson Piquet. Alan Jones in the white car, leading of these 2 here, ahead of Jacques Lafitte in 3rd position, led this race last year until he had to retire, and that is John Watson. That's Watson, the man who was probably hoping for a wet race, because yesterday he was right back on form in wet practice, 4th fastest. He's had 3 finishes this year, 10th in the World Championship, but it looks as though this race is not going to be another finish. Now, Pironi. Look at the gap. That's the gap between Pironi, the leader, Alan Jones in 2nd, and the gap between Jones 2nd and Lafitte 3rd. Now, a long, long gap, and we're waiting for the 4th man, and it's Reutemann 4th, Arnoux 5th, with Piquet 6th right behind him. Jarrier number 3 in the Candy Tyrrell in 7th place. Another gap as we look down the circuit, and it's Elio De Angelis in the Essex Lotus, ahead of Villeneuve, ahead of Lammers, ahead of world champion Jody Scheckter. Then another gap, and it's Derek Daly, the Irish driver, ahead of Depailler in the Alfa Romeo, and that is Patrese taking ex-world champion Andretti ahead of Rosberg and Prost, and last through there was Patrick Depailler in the Alfa Romeo, as Didier Pironi, the leader, starts another lap. The gap is extending between Pironi and Jones as Lafitte goes through, but the interest at the moment is the battle for 4th position between Reutemann and the next two who are jointly leading the World Championship. Because it's René Arnoux, watch for the yellow and white Renault as it comes. There it is, René Arnoux leading the World Championship. The man who is sharing the World Championship lead with him is behind him, and it's Nelson Piquet. Fastest lap so far, Pironi, 1:22.56, not a lap record. But as we look at the battle for 4th, Reutemann, Arnoux and Piquet, remember that they're on pretty full tanks at the moment.
Yes, the Renault is interesting. Arnoux in the Renault there, following Reutemann. He's been putting Reutemann under a fair bit of pressure up to now in the race, and he's really having a crack at him. But surprisingly enough, despite the extra power of the turbocharged engines, he's not getting off the corners quick enough to attack.
That's Tiffany Dell down there, the Unipart ensign. Tiffany Dell, his first Grand Prix, the Englishman. He's clearly out of the race, but it looks from the way he has parked the car as though it's mechanical trouble, and it's pretty clear that Tiff himself, from the way he's casually walking about, or was before he disappeared behind the trees, is perfectly okay. Now let's look at the gap again. The race is spreading. Pironi is some 6 seconds ahead of Alan Jones in spite of a lap record, 1:21.7. There's Jones second. Reutemann in Lafitte in 3rd position. As we look again, they come through the chicane, and Didier Pironi, as his fuel load lightens, is speeding up and putting up lap record speeds. Here he is, Pironi, from Paris, man who won Le Mans in 1978 in the Renault team. And there's the gap. You can see that Pironi is pulling away from Jones, and it seems to me as we look that Jones is pulling away from Jacques Lafitte a bit. And where is Carlos Reutemann, who is in 4th position, or should be in the Williams, just ahead of René Arnoux, who is followed in turn by Nelson Piquet. There is Reutemann, and it seems as though Arnoux has dropped back a bit.
He's gone.
It's not Arnoux, it's Piquet. And behind Piquet is Jarrier, so something has happened to René Arnoux, who is missing. He's obviously dropped down. Is his car in trouble as Elio De Angelis comes through? Villeneuve in 8th position, and next up there's Arnoux in 9th position ahead of Scheckter, and so Arnoux, who is followed by Scheckter and Lammers, must have spun or gone off, but he's back in the race.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he might have had a little slip up trying to pass Reutemann. He'd been all over the back of him like a rash for a good 10 laps or so, and I would think maybe he was having a go and made a little mistake and just dropped back.
And we look down now from the helicopter at Didier Pironi, the leader, catching and passing the young Frenchman Alain Prost, who is 17th, who missed Long Beach in South Africa because he broke a wrist. René Arnoux is now in 9th position after that spin, or whatever the trouble was, as Pironi goes away from Alain Prost. That's Depailler into the pits, well down. Depailler, who led the Belgian Grand Prix in the Ligier last year, has now gone to Alfa Romeo, and it looks as though the experimental engine that he used in practice, but not in the race, at lap 30 out of 72, and that's Pironi, the leader. He is catching Daly and Rosberg. Rosberg in the yellow Fittipaldi, Daly in the blue and red Tyrrell. They are battling for 13th place, and Rosberg goes through and takes Daly. Now Pironi is going to go through and take Daly. No, he's not. He's nearly taken off. He's nearly taken off by Daly.
Yes, that was horrible. I don't think Daly had seen Pironi, and he really chopped him up then. But he'd made a bad mistake himself before, and I think he was still trying to collect himself. That's a little bit naughty, but it may be that in the confusion of letting Rosberg through, that he just simply hadn't seen Pironi, or realised that it was a leader attacking him and not another car just attacking him from behind. He may have thought that it was another car on the same lap, and of course here we have a replay. Now look at the leading car there, which is Daly. He goes very wide there. He makes a bad mistake at that corner, gets offline, is very slow through it. Rosberg in the yellow car gets in front of him, and you see he wouldn't have had time to look for the other car in his mirrors on that short straight. He just pushes on Pironi. But in fairness to Daly, it's Pironi's responsibility to stay out to look after himself there, because he should know that Daly hasn't seen him. And above all, he doesn't want to get taken off by a back marker.
That's Alain Prost, number 8, the Frenchman, who's clearly in trouble. He's just been passed and lapped by Jacques Lafitte, who's in 3rd position, the man who led in the Ligier after Depailler had retired last year. And Reutemann in the white car is in 4th position as Lafitte goes through, chasing Jones and Pironi. So Ligiers are 1st and 3rd. It's a great day for the French team so far, and Guy Ligier, the patron of the team, is here to watch it, and is no doubt on tenterhooks as he watches his cars go through. And Alain Prost's race looks as though it's run. The Frenchman, his wrist okay, but the car clearly isn't, and he seems to be out of the race. That's the charming Marie-Claude Beaumont of the Renault team, herself a great race driver. And that's Piquet. Piquet, who was in 5th position, out of the race into the catch fencing, leading the championship. He's still in the car as they pull the catch netting away from him. Maybe it was brakes, who can tell? I said before that it's very demanding at Zolder, but for whatever reason, the joint world championship leader is out of the race, and the other joint championship leader, Arnoux, is still in the race. So, mercifully, Nelson Piquet, the brilliant young Brazilian, obviously perfectly okay, his race finished, he walks away and leaves the car, and the car doesn't seem to be at all damaged. That catch fencing certainly works. It was a great idea, and it's been... Oh, that's ex-world champion Mario Andretti in the Essex Lotus, 1978 world champion. 3 no finishes this year and a very bad 1979 season. So, lap 66 out of 72, and there's been a major change because Jacques Lafitte, who was 3rd, is out of the top 6. He's been passed by Reutemann, he's been into the pits for a long stop, he's rejoined, and now Jarier is up to 4th position, but Arnoux has fought back from 10th to 5th, and he's challenging Jarier for 4th, and those vital 3 World Championship points you get for 4th position. In the closing stages of the race, as Pironi goes into another lap with 6 laps to go in this 72-lap race. He has lapped Jody Scheckter there behind him, Scheckter in the Ferrari, the reigning world champion. So Pironi must be, and there is the battle for 4th position. That's Jean-Pierre Jarier, Jumper Jarier, the Frenchman, with another Frenchman behind him. Arnoux has come up all the way from 10th to 4th, a brilliant fighting drive like Villeneuve had in the Ferrari last year when he came up from last to 3rd, and Arnoux has passed Villeneuve on his way to this fight that he's having now with Jarier for 4th position. So there is the Tyrrell, 4th. There is the Renault, 5th. This is the battle for 3 points, and this might even decide the World Championship, and that's Patrese' car in the background. Patrese in the arrows out of the race.
Yes, the Renault's having surprising difficulty with its additional power of getting past other cars at this circuit. But one thing, of course, with all the excitement that people have been doing with the success in Brazil and South Africa of the Renault, and everybody putting it down completely to the turbocharged engine, one has to say that the Renault chassis, at a circuit like this, you need a very good chassis to go well. He's having another stab, but he won't do it there. He's going to have to get the section after the pits of the track absolutely dead right to get a good run onto the back straight and do him into the back chicane. I see that as the only place he's got a real chance on this circuit, and he's going to have to concentrate like mad, not climb over him here, places like this. It's from now on that he's got to be, Arnoux has got to get this coming up section absolutely right to be as close as he can behind the Tyrrell onto the back straight. If he can get close enough, he can be within 2 lengths of him, he should be able to do him with a bit of power and a bit of slipstream down into the braking for the chicane.
I say again, we might even be watching the battle that could decide the 1980 World Championship, because René Arnoux, the second of these two cars, who is in 5th position, has had 2 championship wins this year. If he can get up from 5th to 4th, it will make a vital difference in the World Championship points, and see how he closes up on Charrier as they come to the chicane.
But he wasn't quite close enough there, Murray. You see what I mean? Coming off that turn, he needed to be within a couple of lengths. He was about 4 lengths behind, and he's got to get those corners just a little bit better.
Well, who knows what 1 point might mean at the season end, but it's Pironi leading Jones, leading Reutemann, 4th position and 5th position we're looking at now as Scheckter goes through. He's going to be lapped, and again Arnoux tries there, and again he has to drop off, and you see his right-hand side front tire smoking as he puts the brakes on through the chicane. It's through to complete another lap as they come up to Scheckter in the Ferrari. But this time it does look as though Jody Scheckter is going to finish a 1980 Grand Prix, and that'll be a pleasant change for him. But he won't be in the points, of course. Into another lap. There is the leader, Didier Pironi. He's driven a very, very good race as he goes past the stricken Mario Andretti's Essex Lotus.
Yeah, Pironi's really driven a beautiful race, because he's now within a couple of laps of his first Grand Prix win, and only his car can stop him now. And he drove the first half of the race under the most difficult sort of pressure. He had Jones just with him, but he was always able to get away a little bit, but he had to do it in the 3/10 of a second a lap. He didn't have a clear superiority, and he's really had to work hard for his win. From half distance onwards, it's been relatively easy for him. I think Jones is in a little bit of trouble with this car. He dropped back steadily, but he really worked hard in the early stage, and he didn't make any mistakes. And apart from a little bit of excitement for a patch with the back markers in the middle, he handled everything very well indeed.
And just to emphasize how well Didier Pironi, the second of these two cars that we're looking at, is driving, I tell you that the car that is in front of him is Carlos Reutemann, who is in 3rd position. We're looking at Pironi now. So Pironi, with 3 laps to go, has lapped everybody up to 3rd place. But Alan Jones, who is behind Pironi in 2nd place, is piling on the steam. He has just done a record lap at 1:20.9, and that's well over 116 miles on this sinuous Zolder circuit. And here is the battle still between Charrier for 4th and Arnoux, who's in 5th position, and they're ahead of Jody Scheckter, who goes through the chicane. Charrier, Arnoux. The V8 Ford engine of Charrier's Tyrrell, and again Arnoux tries.
Yeah, Arnoux's got a tough job on. He's got a couple of laps left to do it in. He really wants to get past and get that extra point, but Charrier is not the easiest of drivers to pass, not the least of the reasons of which is that he's a little bit unpredictable when you're trying to pass him. So Arnoux's got a pretty tough job on his hands, and he really would like to nip past. He's been held up behind him for quite a few laps now.
Lap 71 out of 72, and Didier Pironi here really has got his first Grand Prix victory within sight. In front of him, Carlos Reutemann in 3rd position as they go past the arrows of Patrese. And if Pironi wins this race, it will be the 4th different winner in 5 Grand Prix of 1980. First of all, we had Alan Jones, then we had René Arnoux, then we had, who won 2, then we had Nelson Piquet winning at Long Beach, and as I say, if Pironi, who's well on his way now, wins this, it will be the 4th different winner in 5 races. Reutemann there 3rd, and this will be only Reutemann's 2nd finish in 5 races. He joined the Williams team from Lotus last year, Ferrari before, and Brabham before, and he's looking for a finish.
Significantly, Murray, of those 4 winners that we've had this year so far, 3 of them are all new guys. Significantly, I say, is appropriate for the new decade.
Last lap, and it's Reutemann and Pironi. Now, is Pironi going to try and do anything about catching and passing Reutemann? I can't see who that is, but into the catch fencing, up come the marshals, and let's see if we can identify. He's obviously all right. It's De Angelis. It's Elio De Angelis in the Essex Lotus, who was fighting for 6th position against Villeneuve, the man who was second, De Angelis, at Brazil in the Lotus, the young Italian, who's driven consistently faster than his team leader, Mario Andretti, but his race, like several people before him, is run. Great frustration. He's almost finished the race, and now he's out of it with a World Championship point in sight. Almost home. Reutemann, who will have to do another lap, don't forget, when he's crossed the line, whereas Didier Pironi will cross the line to win, or will he? Grand Prix have been lost by someone closer to the finish than this, but Pironi is going well. Into the chicane, so now they are almost within sight of the checkered flag and the end of the 1980 Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder. So Reutemann goes over the line. He's got to do another lap, but Pironi wins. Indeed, it is the 4th winner in 5 races. Indeed, the 3rd time that we have had a first Grand Prix win this year from a new young driver, Arnoux, Piquet and Pironi. But René Arnoux, look, has got up to 4th position and has got that extra point. Past Jarier on the last lap with Villeneuve on the Ferrari 6th. And that makes a difference to the World Championship, because although Arnoux still leads, it is from Alan Jones now 2nd. Nelson Piquet has gone down from 1st to 3rd. Pironi 4th, and then a 10-second gap. So in 2 weeks' time, the unique Round the Houses Monaco Grand Prix. We'll be covering it in a special edition of Grandstand, as well as our Grand Prix highlights on BBC Two. See you there. Where the clouds and rain of the last 3 days have rolled away to complete the magic of this unique motor racing occasion, but where it's overcast and the rain could well return. In spite of the overcast conditions, though, the magic remains, for Monaco is truly unique. For the 2-mile circuit, which wriggles and plunges around the Principality, coupled with the vast crowd of continental and British race enthusiasts, has an atmosphere of its own. And on the starting grid, there's a good few surprises. World champion and double Monaco winner Jody Scheckter is only 17th out of the 20 starters. No British drivers qualified for the first time for 25 years, and the World Championship leader René Arnoux the slowest qualifier. So, as we look at the Saudia Leyland Williams car of the 3rd fastest man on the grid, Alan Jones, there are 19 of the 20 competitors in front of the World Championship leader. And that's tough at Monaco, where passing is difficult, to say the least of it. Alan Jones, winner of the Argentine Grand Prix, well up in the World Championship, indeed in 2nd position behind René Arnoux, the World Championship leader. And ahead of Alan Jones, and this is a staggered grid, is his teammate, the brilliant Argentine driver Carlos Reutemann, in the Saudia Leyland Williams car like Jones, powered by a Cosworth V8 engine. There is Reutemann with the very distinctive face mask that he always wears, which is fire resistant, like the overalls, the socks, the shoes, the gloves, and you can see the air pipe into the side of his helmet, which liberates air into the helmet by force if the car crashes. And so that leaves on pole position the young Frenchman Didier Pironi in the Ligier Gitane car, who was fastest in the untimed wet practice on Thursday, then fastest in the timed practice on Thursday afternoon, and fastest again yesterday after a terrific struggle with Carlos Reutemann in the Williams car. Pironi, it's his 36th Grand Prix. He won at Belgium 2 weeks ago, the man who won at Le Mans in 1978, and this is his first pole position. But no British drivers. John Watson failed by an incredibly tiny margin, by 0.2 of a second to qualify. He was 21st fastest in a situation where only 20 drivers take part
in this very difficult race around the twisting Principality. Jeff Lees failed to qualify in the shadow, and so did Tiff Needell in the Unipart Ensign, and it was his first appearance. But Derek Daly, the Irishman from Dublin, is on the grid in the Tyrrell car. His compatriot David Kennedy failed to make it in the other of the two shadow cars, and so for that matter, in terms of non-starters, did Eddie Cheever, Keke Rosberg, Ricardo Zunino in the Parmalat Brabham car. But Nelson Piquet, who was first at Long Beach, is there on the grid, and he is in fourth position. And so let's just very quickly check on the grid. In pole position, out on his own on the staggered grid, Didier Pironi, then Carlos Reutemann, second fastest, third fastest Alan Jones, fourth fastest Piquet, fifth Lafitte, sixth Villeneuve, seventh fastest Patrick Depailler in the Alfa Romeo ahead of his teammate Bruno Giacomelli, ninth Jarier in the Tyrrell, 10th Prost in the McLaren, 11th Patrese in the Arrows, and in 12th position Derek Daly in the Tyrrell. The Alphas have been particularly meritorious here, and Patrick Depailler seems fully to have recovered from his leg injuries as they get away in a few moments to the warm-up lap around this 2.06-mile circuit, the lap record for which was put up 2 years ago in 1978 by Niki Lauda, 1 minute 28.65, and that's a speed of 83.56 miles an hour, and it's James Hunt now, and he knows much more about Monaco than I do.
Yes, certainly, Murray. I don't know too much. I never finished a race here myself, and it is always a race of attrition. It's a different type of racing on a street circuit. They need special concentration. In the normal way, you can drive with a bit of gay abandon on a normal track. If you do that here, you go a couple of feet offline, clip the barrier, damage a wheel, and you're out of the race. So first of all, it's massive concentration and what I would call defensive driving rather than attacking driving. Overtaking is virtually impossible here. You need great patience. You've got to wait for the opposition, the guy in front of you, to make a mistake. And if you get a slow car in front of you, you get held up. You can see your chances dwindling as the guy in front goes away. So basically here, they're running on reliability and playing a waiting game. There are cars coming into the Casino Square now. This is just on the warm-up lap. Here down towards the Mirabeau corner. This is one of the few places you can pass. They're warming up now, they're on the pace lap, and they will come round, form up on the grid as usual with the engine still running. As soon as they're all stopped, they get the red light. You've got between 6 and 10 seconds is the official rule. We're in the tunnel now. This is a bit of a problem for the drivers because you get a serious change of light. You come out of the bright daylight into the artificially lit tunnel, down to the chicane, quick flip through the chicane. It's easy if you're concentrating. You make a mistake and you're in trouble there. Down round the swimming pool now. This is the new section of the circuit. It's been here for a few years now. They used to come along the top round what is now the back of the pit road. Around the pool, Pironi's slowing them down. They're all forming up on the leader, on the pole man. Warming their tires up. They give the throttle a bit of a burst there to get the back tires warm so they're sticky for the start. Try to get them hot, try to get the grip, because so much depends on the start here. The grid position is all important, and how you do the start, because if you can make a couple of places on the start, that helps you on the race. It's worth a good practice time.
And it's worth establishing that there have been several changes to the circuit to make it easier for the drivers, particularly at Saint-Devote, the first corner, where it's been widened, and on the run down to the Mirabeau, and onto the chicane itself on the far side of the circuit. So, the warm-up lap completed. I remind you that it is 76 laps around this extremely difficult and demanding circuit, and who gets away first could well control the race from the very outset. 156.5 miles. Watch for the green. Pironi leads. Reutemann second, Jones third, Lafitte fourth, and that is Derek Daly. Derek Daly and Jean-Pierre Jarier, and the rest of the car stationary. Now, there is a crane there, Derek Daly, and there is that Lammers going through, and it looked like Jochen Maas. Derek Daly obviously perfectly all right, and in the background, Alain Prost. Now, this is at number 23, there is Giacomelli, the Italian driver. So there's at least 4 cars out of the running on the very first corner, and you can see that the very efficient Monaco Grand Prix administration got the crane working, and the Williams car are in second and third positions as they go into the tunnel. It's Pironi leading, Reutemann second, Alan Jones in third position as they come out of the tunnel, and already Carlos Reutemann is challenging, but I wonder what is happening at Saint-Devote. The yellow flags will be waved furiously to the drivers to tell them that there is danger on the track ahead of them. Pironi, winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, leads from the 2 Williams in the form of Carlos Reutemann, who is challenging every inch of the way. And look, those two, and Reutemann challenges. He's going to try and take Pironi as they come out of the Rascasse. And it is Giacomelli in 5th position and Piquet in 6th. There is Piquet. Now, they're approaching Saint-Devote, which is where the problem was on the first lap. Watch for this. There is Giacomelli's car, and they're through. There is Reutemann, there is Lafitte, there is Giacomelli, there is Pironi in the lead. Lap 2 out of 76. Giacomelli stopped, and Depailler well up in the race as they go round Casino Square, down to the Mirabeau.
Here we go, we're getting a replay of the shunt. And what, it's the usual traffic jam here. They're all piling over each other. Quite frankly, I really think that a wonderful shot was that's Derek Daly, I think, going right over the top of everybody. He was really lucky not to land on his head. Unbelievable. It's just too many cars. It's just too many people trying to drive into one hole at once.
And Villeneuve was threading his way through on the replay there. There he is going up the hill to the casino. And meantime, as we look at this holocaust here, and Lammers, number 9, gets his wheels tangled with Patrese's car. There is the crane pulling the cars out of the way. There's a big crane very well placed there to remove the 2 Tyrrells, and already it looks to me as though with the second lap yet to be completed, Saint-Devote is going to be clear. And in the lead, it is still Didier Pironi in the lead here, on his way to Saint-Devote. Here he is. Reutemann second. Reutemann third. Alan Jones is in second position. Reutemann third. In 4th position, it is Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier. Then Depailler in the Alfa Romeo. And then Piquet in 6th position. As we look at the Williams cars of Jones, Reutemann. Over the hump, they come right up to the barrier, down to Mirabeau, and this is the distinctive view from what was the station hairpin, now Lowe's Hotel. Depailler 5th, and there's a gap before what looks like Jody Scheckter in 7th position. Into the tunnel. Bright lights inside there, but of course there is a tremendous contrast between the bright light outside and the much duller conditions inside the tunnel. Through the chicane, this is lap 3 in this 76th lap race, and it's still Pironi who's driving a very cool race at the front. Round the swimming pool, and look how close it is between the 2 blue and white Ligier Gitane cars of Pironi leading, Lafitte 4th, sandwiching Jones and Reutemann.
Yes, it looks to me, Murray, as if Jones is putting Pironi under a lot of pressure. His car seems to be going well. In Belgium at the last race, the Ligiers were a little bit on top. And the Williams seem to have an understeer problem. But right now, Jones looks to be climbing all over him, looking for a way through to try and get past early in the race to establish himself at the front.
And now you you can see what street racing round the Principality of Monaco is all about. It is Patrick Depailler in 5th position in the V12 Alfa Romeo. There it is, the red car, ahead of Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. You just saw him coming over the rise, and these are the first 6 cars going round the Mirabeau down to the station hairpin. Pironi leads, Jones leads, Reutemann in 3rd position. There's the Argentine in the Williams. 4th position is Lafitte. 5th in the red car, coming into the tunnel now is Patrick Depailler, and right behind him in the Brabham Cosworth car, the Long Beach Grand Prix winner from Brazil, Nelson Piquet, through the chicane. There is Piquet. And Jody Scheckter in the Ferrari, who won last year and put up the fastest pole position lap last year, is in 7th position in the Ferrari. The Ferraris have not qualified at all well. Jody Scheckter was in 17th place on the qualification. This is the Rascasse at the end of the yet another lap, and it's still anybody's race. But Pironi, of course, has got the advantage, because if he can keep his cool as he comes up to Saint-Devant with Alan Jones pressuring all the way and a gap opening up between Jones and Reutemann. There is Reutemann, there is Lafitte, there is Depailler, there is Piquet, and here is Reutemann again in 3rd position.
Yeah, this is Jones' best chance of passing now, to get through the Casino Square well and try and do him down the hill. He's not close enough this time, but this is where he will do it. Back to the first lap disaster again. I have to say that the marshals did a fantastic job to clear the track in time, because it really looked as if we had a blocked track and we might well have to restart the race. That was Daly cavorting. That is very spectacular.
I don't think we can overstate the efficiency of the Monaco marshals, and incidentally there are 6 marshals from the British Motor Racing Marshals Club officiating amongst the many marshals here at Monaco. Indeed, some of them may be on that corner, and the Monegasques have gone to an enormous amount of trouble to train their marshals efficiently, and they're very, very good indeed. This is lap 5 out of 76, and it's Pironi. Behind Pironi in the Ligier, Alan Jones. There's just a slight gap now before the white and green Saudi Leland Williams car of Carlos Reutemann in 3rd position. They complete lap 5, and Jones is pressuring very hard indeed. He's going right up to the gearbox of Didier Pironi, who almost kisses the Armco with his left rear wheel as he goes round. And Reutemann is there, and Lafitte and Depailler and Piquet. No change for the first 6 places, and we haven't had, apart from that terrific crash sequence at Saint-Devant on lap 1, the mechanical failures yet which often mark Monaco. Indeed, it is not unknown here for only a handful of cars to finish, and Piquet is now closing right up on Patrick Depailler as Pironi, the leader, goes into the tunnel on lap 6 with another 70 laps to go. Down to the chicane, there's only room for 1 car here. There was a big crash yesterday in the Formula 3 race when Roberto Guerrero, who was ahead in 2nd position of Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian driver, was taken off by Boutsen, and we again saw some fantastic marshalling, and both drivers are perfectly all right. Pironi leading the Grand Prix, Jones 2nd, up to La Rascasse, a comparatively new corner, because the swimming pool sequence of bends has only been in use in the last few years, and look how Jones is challenging. They're still on full tanks, and Jones now coming up to Saint-Devant and trying to get through on the inside, but he won't get through there. James, if this was your race, what would be your tactics if you were in Jones's position?
Well, Jones has got a problem, Murray, because the best possible place to pass is down to the out of the Casino Square, and to get really quickly out of there and get him on braking down for Mirabeau, where they're coming now. They're going out of the Casino Square, but Jones seems slow here. He's everywhere else on the circuit, he's right up Pironi's gearbox, and he drops back just that little bit. The Casino Square is quite a fast corner, and the faster they're going, the more the aerodynamics are hurt, and therefore the less grip he has driving right behind him. But he's pressuring very hard because it's very, very difficult to drive with your front wing right under the other guy's gearbox. It's difficult for your own concentration because you've not only got to look where you're going, which you always have to do, but you've got to look at him as well, so as not to damage your car, but you've got to keep close enough to be ready to pick up any mistake. And Jones has got a big problem because it'll be a lot easier to drop back a couple of lengths and just watch him. They're on lap 7 now. Jones is pressuring like mad, but he's going to have to keep forcing Pironi for a mistake. And Pironi's driving very sensibly. He's not responding to the pressure. He's just doing his own thing because he knows that without a mistake he can't be passed.
And Pironi is an astonishingly cool young man. When I say young, he is 28 years old, 37th Grand Prix. He really came into his own in Belgium 2 weeks ago when he dominated the race from start to finish. And he professes that Monaco is his favourite circuit. He is one of no less than 6 drivers who have won the Formula 3 race here at Monaco. And Didier Pironi won it in 1977, 2 years ago, before he went first to Tyrrell and then to the Ligier team. And it's notable that with Jones pressuring Pironi, Carlos Reutemann is either leaving a gap between himself and Alan Jones and deliberately letting Alan do the forcing, or indeed can do no better, because look, there's about 2 car lengths between Reutemann and Jones as they go into the tunnel. The Williams car still second and third, and behind them Patrick Depailler still in the Alfa Romeo in 5th position, and that's an outstanding performance because it's a big and bulky car. There goes Lafitte in 4th position, and in 6th place it is still Nelson Piquet. 7th, Jody Scheckter. 8th, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, and that's a good effort in the turbocharged Renault. And in 9th position, Gilles Villeneuve. Coming up to the end of lap 8, out of the Rascasse, Reutemann, Lafitte, Depailler, Piquet in 6th position. Piquet, who was fastest in the untimed session yesterday morning. Piquet, who we'll see in a moment, crashed his car in practice. You'll just see him come round Saint-Devant. There he was in the background. And that there, we're looking further down the field now. And there's one of the Essex Lotus cars, or was, as we look at the leaders, past the Hotel de Paris, over the hump, out to the Armco again. It's terrifying to stand on the outside of the Armco there as we look again at Pironi, cutting in very close to the apex. Reutemann, Lafitte, Depailler, Piquet, and then there's a gap before Jody Scheckter in the flat 12 Ferrari, which did not perform at all to his satisfaction in practice. 17th out of 20. 18th in practice, by the way, was ex-world champion Mario Andretti, and then Fittipaldi, before the man leading the world championship, René Arnoux, finished slowest of all.
It looks to me at the moment as if Jones is the fastest car on the circuit. He's climbing all over Pironi like a rash at the moment. But unfortunately, he's got this serious problem that the weakest place for him on the circuit seems to be the one place that he could pass out of, as I say, out of Casino Square down to the Mirabeau. So he's got a bit of a problem. He's having a go now, but he really can't pass there. He's right up his gearbox now. They're going up to the Casino Square, and this is where Jones has got to get it absolutely right if he's going to be in a position to have a go down to Mirabeau.
Monaco has not been the happiest of circuits for Alan Jones. He drove an inspired race last year. He was in 3rd position, and he had to retire. And my goodness, he's trying to make up for it now. That's where Pironi is holding his position. He's just gone over the point where he climbed over the back of Niki Lauda's car last year and went out of the race. Pironi was then in a Tyrrell. And Alan Jones still, Reutemann 3rd, Lafitte still 4th, number 26 in the Ligier, that is. Out from the dark brightness into the darkness. Much longer tunnel than it used to be in the old days of Monaco when that was the railway station area. And there's Jones, flicks it through the chicane down to what was the Tabac, now round the swimming pool. Pironi, Jones, a gap Reutemann, Lafitte, a gap. Depailler and Piquet, a gap. Jody Scheckter 7th. And indeed, Alan Jones is fastest. 1 minute 28.5 is a new lap record. That's 1/10 of a second faster than Niki Lauda's lap record, and they are still on pretty full tanks. And there's Lafitte, nearly losing it as he goes out of La Rascasse, and they complete another lap, and that is 10 laps. That is 10 laps completed now. So they're getting on for 1/7 distance. Out of the race already, Daly in the crash, Jean-Pierre Jarier in the crash, Lammers and Giacomelli and Prost in the crash. So 5 drivers out of 20 out in that crash. As we look at this terrific dice, Monaco is always famous for people driving nose to tail, gearbox to nose cone, and that's the first 6 on lap 11.
Pironi's doing a very good job in front, Murray. He's under a lot of pressure, and I don't think that his car is working quite as well as he would like, but he's well aware of the fact that he can't be passed, and he's going at his own speed, which is absolutely the right thing to do. He's driving with all the confidence of the guy who won the last Grand Prix. It was his first win, and it's definitely been good for him. He's driving very well.
Once again, it looks as though the unfortunate Renault team leader, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, who has yet to finish a Grand Prix in a classified position, is out of the Monaco Grand Prix. Well, he's in the pits anyway, and it looks like a retirement as the first 6 stream across the line to complete 11 laps now in this competition. Pironi, Sandoval, and look up the hill, which has got lots of twists and turns in it. The first 6 streaming up. Reutemann, Depailler, Pironi. And they are on lap 12 now. 11 laps completed. That's the position after 10 laps. And on lap 12, and Alan Jones has put up the fastest lap of the race so far. And there is indeed a bit of a gap now developing between Jones and Reutemann, and Depailler and Piquet, 5th and 6th, are closing up on Lafitte. That's Lafitte in 4th position. And it's very interesting as far as makes of car and engine are concerned, because it's Ligier leading Williams, leading Ligier in 5th position, and Alfa Romeo in 6th position of Brabham, in 7th position of Ferrari, and a mixture of V12, flat 12 and V8 engines. Pironi, Jones, round the swimming pool. There's a colossal crowd here. Thousands of people, fervent Ferrari enthusiasts, have poured over the frontier from nearby Italy, and they're coming up now to complete lap 12 in this 76-lap race. And Pironi holding it. Is it conceivable, James, that Alan Jones will have decided to back off a bit and give himself a comparative rest?
Yes, I think Reutemann's playing a bit of a waiting game. He's quite happy where he is. He'll let Jones do the work. It's a sensible tactic to do, and watch and wait. His car's obviously running quite adequately. He's in no rush. There's nothing that he can do to pass anybody at the moment where he is. So he's just going to wait.
Well, you can see for yourselves now that there is a gap developing between the battle for first and the battle for third, and there's 4 cars virtually locked together, and there they are for 3rd position. Reutemann, Lafitte, Depailler that we're looking at, and Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. And if any one of those puts a wheel wrong, the cars behind will be through in a flash and the position will change. Lafitte, 4th position. Reutemann in front of him. Out of the swimming pool comes Pironi. Jones, Reutemann, Lafitte, Depailler, Piquet, and the Ferrari of Jody Scheckter in 7th place, not even in sight. And behind Jody Scheckter, who is in 7th position, the rest of the field goes streaming through. Jody Scheckter, world champion number 1, and he's now on lap 14. Reutemann in third position. And you saw right down the hill, and there was not a sign of Jody Scheckter. As far as weather conditions are concerned, the course is dry, the sun is not shining, it remains overcast, but we haven't got those dreadful wet conditions that we had during part of practice. They're on slick tires, of course. There is still a long way to go with 13 laps completed on lap 14, and it's a 76-lap race. As they come out of the tunnel, no change in the first 6. It's still Pironi in the Ligier, leading Alan Jones, the winner of the Argentine Grand Prix in the Saudi Alayla Williams. There is the third place man, Carlos Reutemann, in the Williams. Fourth is Jacques Lafitte, right up the gearbox of Reutemann. In fifth place in the Alfa Romeo, it is still Patrick Depailler. There he is. And in sixth place, it is still Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. As they
from the two Williams.
The start of lap 29 in the 76th lap Monaco Grand Prix, and it is a frantically fast and furious race. The bad news for British enthusiasts is that Alan Jones went out of the race on lap 24 with unknown trouble. He just came into the pit, stopped and got out of the car. And that means that Didier Pironi, who took the lead to Saint-Devote when the flag fell, and is still in the lead, but there in the pits is Jody Scheckter. Villeneuve has been into the pits and changed his tyres and rejoined the race. Scheckter and Villeneuve are known to be running on softer tyres that wouldn't last the distance. But to get back to the race, Pironi is now leading, and Reutemann, who had a terrific scrap with him in practice for pole position, and as you see is 2.54 seconds behind him, is now in second place and taking up the challenge that his team leader Alan Jones held at Pironi for lap after lap after lap. And behind Reutemann, you see the first 3 cars now, is Jacques Lafitte in third position as we look at Pironi. In fourth position, and a fine fourth position, but dropping back, Patrick Depailler in the Alfa Romeo, the man who won here in a Tyrrell a few years ago. In fifth position, this is the battle for second that we're looking at, with Reutemann and Lafitte exiting as they come up to complete lap 29. Over the line to complete lap 29 go the second and third men into Saint-Devote and up the hill, and in sixth position now, completing the leaderboard, it is the young Italian Elio De Angelis in the Essex Lotus as we look in the background at Patrick Depailler. This is Reutemann second, Lafitte third, round the Hotel de Paris, into the descent to Mirabeau, Pironi leading. And the race now, apart from the leader, of course, is the race for second between Reutemann and Lafitte.
Yeah, we've got a fantastic race going here, Murray. It's a great shame that we lost Alan Jones, who was pressuring Pironi for the lead, but Reutemann now really has his hands full. He's got his eye on the lead. Pironi is well in sight, but in the meantime, he's got a hell of a problem defending his second place. So he's really up against it, because what we really need him to do is just to move up a little bit and try and get on terms with Pironi, which will really set the race on fire.
Well, Pironi is driving a magnificent race, as he did in Belgium 2 weeks ago, because he is one of the young and up-and-coming drivers. Indeed, he's well and truly arrived, having won the Belgian Grand Prix, and he refused to be pressured by Alan Jones. Alan Jones has given up the ghost, or at least his car has, and now it's up to Reutemann with Lafitte behind him. Just to bring you fully into the picture, in 7th position now is Jochen Maas in the Arrows. In 8th position is Mario Andretti in the second of the 2 Lotuses, because his teammate De Angelis is fifth. And in 9th position is Emerson Fittipaldi.
I'm looking at Lafitte's left rear tyre, and he seems to be going all right, but it looks a little bit marked up. It looks a little bit scuffed, and there could be a problem coming for Lafitte with his left rear tyre there.
Well, that's the crazy that we're looking at, that's leading this bunch, with René Arnoux, and then Villeneuve, who's back in the race having changed his tyres, and Jan Lammers, who went out of the race at the beginning in the crash at Saint-Devote, but has now rejoined. And the leaders, there is Depailler. We are on lap 31 out of 76, and that's Lafitte who is third as they go into the tunnel. pool complex. The leader, Pironi. Lap 31. There are the positions. And Pironi has put up a record lap at 1 minute 27.4, which is 1.2 seconds faster than Niki Lauda's 1978 lap record. 31 laps completed, and Pironi leads Reutemann, leads Lafitte, leads Depailler, with Piquet fifth at the end. Lap 55, and there, stopping, it's Pironi. Pironi stopping, and Reutemann closing right up on him. Pironi must have spun, and Reutemann is through, and Pironi looks as though he's out. That's Lafitte, it's Lafitte. Lafitte has broken his tyre, broken his suspension. That's the leader. That is Didier Pironi, and he's out of the race. Didier Pironi has been fated not to win the Monaco Grand Prix, and now Carlos Reutemann on lap 55 out of 76 has gone into the lead.
It's been trying to spot with rain for about 10 laps now, Murray. I suspect that he got on a bit of a wet patch. It's a mistake. It's a clear-cut mistake by Pironi. He's damaged his car, and I would think that the slippery track had something to do with that.
So, Didier Pironi out of the race, and we are looking now on lap 55 at the new race leader, and for the first time in his career as a Saudi Leyland Williams driver, Carlos Reutemann from the Argentine is leading a Grand Prix. Didier Pironi, who led from the start, went out on lap 55. And the rain is now starting to come down. And Reutemann is now going to have the agonizing problem on lap 56 of whether to try to keep going on slick tires or whether to come in and put wets on. Now watch the surface very carefully indeed. You see umbrellas up, and watch the surface of the track and see whether it gets wet or not.
Yeah, at the moment the rain isn't hard enough to make it wet enough to come in for wet tires. He's going to stay on slicks, but what he has, the problem that he has is a really big one, because he doesn't, you have to feel your way. You can't really see how wet the track is, and that's our new problem. Stop right in the middle of the road, can't see, right at the Mirabeau corner. So they say Reutemann's got the problem now of trying to discover how hard he can press, because the feet is still there and is still threatening. He doesn't have what you call a commanding lead, and he's really got to feel his way carefully, because he's already seen Pironi go, probably on the wet track, and things, and so he's got to look after himself.
Well, that all happened just a few moments ago. We can now go back live to Monaco for the closing stages of the race.
That is Mario Andretti, the 1978 world champion who had clawed his way up to 5th place and is now out of the race. We look at number 28, Carlos Reutemann, the race leader. And now 10 of the 20 starters who began this race are left in this incident-packed Monaco Grand Prix. And the leader...
Well, you can hear the noisy throats of the engines there in the Monaco Grand Prix. I'm sorry, we seem to have lost commentary at the moment. But Carlos Reutemann in the Williams, out in front at the moment from Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier in second place. That was Lafitte, number 26, you saw go by just then. I think we can now pick up commentary once again with Murray Walker and James Hunt.
We had a little bit of rain in the middle. We had the 3 leaders with tyre problems earlier on. The rain sorted out the tyre problems, but it tripped Pironi up. Although we suspect he apparently made a mistake and lost it, hit the barrier, damaged his front suspension, put himself out of the race when he was leading it in the most difficult of conditions with a little bit of a greasy track. Reutemann has prevailed carefully. His tyres have come good because the rain cleaned the track up, and now he's cruising. Reutemann's only problem now is to get the car to the finish mechanically. He's just got to look after the car. He's giving himself plenty of room. He's not pushing it, and the battle now is for second place.
Carlos Reutemann's 9th drive at Monaco could mean his 10th Grand Prix victory. He is now on his 68th lap, and out of this race, it looks as though have gone now 11 of the original 20 competitors, if, as we suspect, Mario Andretti has retired. Jarier is out, Daly, Prost, Giacomelli out, Jones out when he was in second place with transmission trouble. We're looking now at the second place man, Jacques Lafitte. Both Renaults out, Jean-Pierre Jabouille and Arnoux. Jody Scheckter out, Patrick Depailler out, Didier Pironi out, and Mario Andretti. But now, all the British spectators, and there are some 6,000 of them here at Monaco, will be keeping their fingers crossed for this man, Carlos Reutemann, 38 years old, from Santa Fe, although he now lives at Cap Ferrat, very close to this Monaco circuit, this uniquely distinctive 2-mile Monaco circuit, because Carlos Reutemann is driving a British car with a British engine and a British gearbox, and in default of British drivers taking part in the Monaco Grand Prix, all British enthusiasts naturally want to see a home victory, at least as far as manufacturer is concerned. Reutemann coming up to and now over the line, and that completes his 68th lap. He first of all pressured in third position and kept Jacques Lafitte back in fourth place, while Alan Jones tackled for the first 25 laps the then race leader Didier Pironi, who had won the Belgian Grand Prix. Then, when Alan Jones went out, as our picture changes to Jacques Lafitte in second place, Carlos Reutemann pressured, closed up on and pressured Pironi. Pironi made that mistake due, we suspect, to the damp track, and I'm glad to say, as Lafitte goes round La Rascasse, that the precipitation, because I think it was low cloud precipitation rather than rain, seems to have stopped, and the circuit is now tolerably dry, and that's Elio De Angelis, or was, as we look at Reutemann.
Bring in Jay.
Carlos Reutemann, James, is on his 69th lap. It's a 76 lap race. You have been in this position of a commanding lead. What sort of thoughts are going through your mind?
Pure panic mechanically. I mean, you know that the race is completely won. You don't trust your luck not to have a problem mechanically, and he's now probably in a very nervous state, just examining his instruments, listening to the engine note. He's panicking mechanically, that's all.
Well, the interesting thing, apart from Reutemann's dominance at the moment, is that if the race finishes in the order that it is now, there will be a new World Championship leader, because Nelson Piquet will get 9 points to add to the 18 that he already has. He will get 4 points, I'm sorry, to give him 22, and there is Patrick Depailler walking in. Fourth position he was in the Alfa Romeo. He has brilliantly test-driven the Alfa Romeo and got it up into the position of competitiveness that it is in now. And as I was saying, Piquet will take the World Championship lead by a mere 1 point from René Arnoux, who has retired, and Jones will then only be 2 points behind Arnoux. So the World Championship, after it will be 6 races, still remains tremendously close, because this time last year, the World Championship had been virtually settled in favour of Jody Scheckter. Carlos Reutemann then, around the swimming pool, and he is on lap 70, 6 laps to go at the end of this one, each of 2.06 miles, and the fastest lap so far was that put up by Didier Pironi, 1 minute 27.4 seconds, 1.2 seconds faster than Niki Lauda's 1978 lap record. And I think I spoke too soon about the wetness of the circuit, because with Reutemann on his 71st lap, I can definitely see spots of rain dropping down, and it is rain and not cloud precipitation, as you can tell from the umbrellas in the background. But the very, very experienced Reutemann, with 120 Grand Prix behind him, will know how to cope with that, because he will know that the gap between himself and this man, the second position runner, Jacques Lafitte, in the troubled Ligier, because he's going noticeably slowly round the swimming pool, and I would hazard a guess that he's jammed in a high gear or unable to get low gear.
Yeah, no, I would think he's probably lost a gear. The clutch rings and the gearbox may have gone. That's what happened. He's signalling to his pit, so he's obviously quite distressed. But in fact, because it's spotting with rain, that could be an advantage to him, because if he's prepared to stick his neck out, he can go relatively faster on a damp track than he can on a dry. But Reutemann, meanwhile, is cruising on. He's got a lot of problems. He sees the rain coming down. When you're in the lead like that, the only thing you have to worry about is problems, and he's not quite sure how hard it's raining. So he's going to have to really, really feel his way carefully.
Well, he'll soon get an answer, because he's coming up to his pits. I've just had news that De Angelis is missing, which means to say that there will be 12 out of the race, only 8 left, and it means that Villeneuve will go up into 5th position. There's Reutemann. He is on lap 72. He has, in fact, got an enormous cushion between himself and Lafitte now. And I did, while James was talking, a quick check on Piquet's position. Piquet is a long way behind Jacques Lafitte. Now, I'm not going to make any prophecies, because that is always a dangerous thing to do at Monaco. I will say, however, that with Reutemann on a visibly glistening at parts now circuit, on his 72nd lap and going very slowly indeed, you can see him sliding there. Don't forget he's on slick tyres. He has no tyre tread at all. Jacques Lafitte in trouble, I was going to say, with Reutemann first, Lafitte second, Piquet third, and Mars fourth. It could well be that the positions are fixed, but who knows? There's still some way to go.
Well, my heart goes out to Reutemann now, because he's done all the work. He's basically won the race. The track's got all slippery, very slippery now, particularly down at on the seafront, but it seems to be raining a little bit harder than it is here in our commentary position. And he now must be having serious attacks of paranoia, because he doesn't know what's going on behind him. He's got to tiptoe his way, and he's really in trouble.
The gap, as you see, Reutemann flicking wetness away from his visor with his gloved left hand. Between Lafitte, who is second, and Piquet, who is third, is 18 seconds. It is not inconceivable, with 73 laps completed, they are now on their 73rd lap, 72 laps completed, and it is not inconceivable that Nelson Piquet could get back that time, long as it is, from Jacques Lafitte. What we don't know at the moment is how quickly Nelson Piquet is going in relation to Lafitte. Look at Reutemann. See him?
Yes, Reutemann's opening and closing his visor. He's got visibility problems as well. He's wiping. You see how his gloved hand goes up? He's wiping his visor. He's opening and closing it, which probably means it's steaming up inside. There's a lot of humidity here now.
And that's Lafitte behind him. That's now not Reutemann, like all of them, got moisture on the outside of his visor, but in circumstances like this, of course, you get moisture inside, and you have to lift up the visor to let the air circulate and hopefully clear the moisture away. Well, there's a long gap between Reutemann and Lafitte. It's 65 seconds, so Reutemann is still in a very commanding position. He is on his 73rd lap, and out of this race now have gone 12 competitors, because I have not seen Elio De Angelis lately. That means to say that there will only be 8 left. There are only 3 on the same lap, and they are the first 3, Reutemann, Lafitte and Piquet. Jochen Maas is a lap behind, as is Gilles Villeneuve, who is now in 5th position. So the order with the leader that we're looking at now is there for you to see. Reutemann leading, Lafitte 2nd, Piquet 3rd, Maas 4th, Villeneuve in the Ferrari 5th, and that gallant veteran Emerson Fittipaldi from Brazil, the 1972 and 74 world champion, in 6th position. The track wet. Reutemann really has got to watch it now.
Yes, but he's got a big enough lead now, Murray. I think he can really tiptoe to the end. It seems to be getting really quite wet around other parts of the track. Where in our commentary position, it's not raining too hard. The track's damp, but it looks quite wet around the Casino Square and down onto the seafront. But he's got room to tiptoe.
Jacques Lafitte, this is 2nd place. Lafitte, as far as the World Championship is concerned, is in 6th position with only 6 points. He will get 6 points if he finishes in 2nd place, and so that will make a distinct difference to his World Championship position. Reutemann leading Lafitte. Piquet 3rd, Maas 4th, Villeneuve is in 5th position, and that is the race leader. He's into the swimming pool complex again. I have seen the Monaco Grand Prix on 1 year when the race was lost on the last corner of the last lap, when Jochen Rindt pressured Jack Brabham into the barriers and won the race. But Carlos Reutemann is not in that situation. He's coming up to complete yet another lap. This will be the 74th lap that he is completing, and he will be starting his penultimate lap. 75 out of 76. He will then have 4.12 miles to go, and that is now. Reutemann into the scene of the carnage on lap 1. Sander Vos. From the Argentine, the man who has driven for Brabham, the man who has driven for Ferrari, the man who has driven for Lotus, and the man who now drives for Williams and looks like achieving his first Grand Prix win. And I'm glad to tell you that in that horrific-looking first lap, nobody was hurt, especially including Derek Daly, who did that gigantic cartwheel through the air. I've seen him standing by the track, and he's obviously quite all right in his usual chipper Irish self. Jacques Lafitte, 2nd place, 2 tours, 2 laps. Indeed, the leader, Reutemann, here he is into the tunnel for the 75th and last time but one, has got considerably less than 2 laps to go. He goes from the tunnel into what is normally a 160-mile-an-hour stretch, down to the chicane in 3rd gear, which is where he is now. Flicks it through the chicane, little short straight, down to the left-hander at the old Tabac position. Then another very, very short straight into the left, right, left of the swimming pool. Now there's the right, coming up the left. 4th gear under normal conditions. And Nelson Piquet is gaining. He is now gained 5 seconds on Jacques Lafitte as Reutemann is about to start his last lap. We could yet have a barnstorming finish for 2nd position. Jacques Lafitte 2nd. Nelson Piquet 3rd, 11 seconds behind Jacques Lafitte. Jochen Maas, there goes the signal. You are on your last lap, says that signal, Carlos Reutemann. And Reutemann climbs the hill. Now, this is the butterfly's time for Carlos Reutemann. He's within striking distance of his first Grand Prix win in the Williams. It will be his 10th Grand Prix win in his long and meritorious career since he first came over and took part in Formula One 9 years ago in 1971. His 9th drive at Monaco, and this year he's had not the best of luck. He didn't finish in the Argentine, he didn't finish in Brazil, he didn't finish at Long Beach. His best drive so far was 2 weeks ago in Belgium when he finished in 3rd place, and he is currently in 6th position with 6 World Championship points after the first time. Another 9 points will make him 15, and we are then going to have 4 people with only 7 points between the top and the 4th for the World Championship, I think. A tremendously exciting situation before the next race. If they finish in the positions they are now, and you are looking at Carlos Reutemann almost home, Piquet will lead the World Championship by 1 point from Arnoux, with Jones 2 points behind. Pironi on 17 points in 4th position, and Carlos Reutemann in 5th place with 15. Into La Rascasse, the last corner. Carlos Reutemann is winning the 1980 Monaco Grand Prix in wonderful style. And then there goes the Union Jack from the Saudi Leyland Williams team. And Carlos Reutemann crosses the line now to win. Well done, the Williams team. It's a great and famous victory, made all the sweeter for the Williams team by the fact that Reutemann took over from Alan Jones, who was then pressuring the then leader Didier Pironi for 1st place. So, as usual, as we look at Jacques Lafitte coming home to finish in 2nd place, it's been a race of attrition, with driver after driver dropping out, and at the last count only 8 drivers will finish, and only 3 of them will be on the same lap. As we look at Jacques Lafitte, he's going to finish in 2nd place if he just gets round La Rascasse and drives up to and over the line successfully. In 3rd place, very, very close to him indeed, Nelson Piquet. Then a lap behind in 4th place. There is Piquet. It's that close. As Lafitte comes up to the line to finish 2nd, the next man across is going to be Nelson Piquet. That's how close it was. You just saw Piquet taking...
But the man most likely to succeed was Frenchman Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier, who'd been fastest in practice by far. So, Lafitte in pole position, René Arnoux 2nd, Pironi in the Ligier 3rd, Alan Jones 4th, then Carlos Reutemann. 6th, Jabouille's Renault, 7th, Alain Prost's McLaren, and 8th, the championship leader, Nelson Piquet. 24 on the grid for the 54-lap, 195-mile French Grand Prix. And as they surged away, Jacques Lafitte exploited his pole position to take the lead, ahead of Arnoux, with Pironi 3rd, Alan Jones 4th, Reutemann 5th, and Piquet 6th. And at the Verrerie bends, it was still Arnoux 2nd, but not for long. Pironi took him on the bend to make it Ligier's 1st and 2nd, and the Renault 3rd. And in 4th place, it was Alan Jones ahead of Carlos Reutemann, with Alain Prost a magnificent 6th, and Nelson Piquet in the Brabham Ford in 7th place. Keke Rosberg last in the Fittipaldi, and then down the Mistral straight. Jacques Lafitte seemed to be extending his lead, but it was Arnoux back into 2nd place, although Pironi retook that vital position on the bend itself. So it was Lafitte leading in the Ligier. Behind him, his teammate Pironi in the Ligier. Then Arnoux. And Lafitte seemed to be well on his way to victory in the French Grand Prix. And at the end of the lap, with Jacques Lafitte still leading, Didier Pironi in the Ligier was ahead of Arnoux. in spite of the fact that everyone had expected the turbocharged Renault to be far the fastest on the very quick Ricard circuit. Cruel luck for Alain Prost, though, out of 6th place and into the pits. Lap 8 out of 54, and Alan Jones had mounted his attack. He had taken 3rd place from Arnoux, and now he was right with Didier Pironi's Ligier. Then, timing his manoeuvre to perfection, he swept from under the Pironi's gearbox and took 2nd place. 2 Frenchmen down and 1 to go, with a gap of some 5 seconds to cut to nothing before he could attack Lafitte. So, still very close together at the front, it was a Ligier in the lead, with Lafitte driving so smoothly and unruffledly as he always does. The Saudi Leyland Williams of Jones 2nd, Pironi's Ligier 3rd. Then, dropping back, Arnoux' Renault, Piquet's Brabham and Reutemann's Williams in 6th place. And with tens of thousands of Frenchmen cheering him on, Lafitte looked good. Lap 11, Jones 2nd, just ahead of Pironi. But it was banzai time for Nelson Piquet, who was right with Arnoux and Reutemann, and using the superb handling of his Gordon Murray-designed Brabham Ford to perfection, he slipped inside Arnoux' Renault to take 4th from the little Frenchman. And that meant 3 points for the championship leader if he could stay there. A great day for the Ligiers and the Williams cars, but yet another disaster day for the Ferraris. For already, race leader Lafitte was lapping the reigning world champion Jody Scheckter in a state of misery with tyre problems. And 1978 world champion Mario Andretti was even worse off with yet another retirement. Lap 35 and Jacques Lafitte seemed to have gone too fast at the start, for his tyres were overheating, and master tactician Alan Jones, with a string of record laps, including one 7 seconds faster than the record, was right up to the Frenchman. Then a new race leader, Alan Jones in the Williams, poetically revenging himself for the points denied him by a Frenchman for his win in Spain, took the lead in the French Grand Prix. Slipping through on the inside of Jacques Lafitte, with Didier Pironi not so very far behind him, and Pironi too starting to gain on Lafitte. And with Piquet in a lonely 4th, a race-long battle for 5th was raging between Arnoux in the Renault and Carlos Reutemann in the Saudi Leyland Williams. On lap 42, with Jones extending his lead, Pironi hauled in his teammate Lafitte. Both of them needed all the championship points they could get, but were there any team orders for Lafitte to lead? Down the longest Grand Prix straight of them all, the Mistral, Pironi got closer and closer to Lafitte. And then, zump! Out of Lafitte's slipstream went Pironi and through into 2nd place. Pironi into 2nd, but just for a terrifying moment, it looked as though Lafitte was going to slam the door on Pironi. But he didn't. Pironi held his line and his 2nd place. And again, Eddie Cheever, who's had a far from happy 1980 in the Osella, was out of a Grand Prix. The checkered flag ready, the signal for the last lap, and into it, with only 3.6 miles between him and his 3rd win of 1980, went Alan Jones, on his way to an undeniable, unchallengeable and official 9 points, which would give him the lead in the championship. Alan had driven a superb race, driving with his head every inch of the way, passing Arnoux, Pironi and Lafitte. But in the closing stages, Didier Pironi made a tremendous charge to cut the gap from 5 seconds down to one which had given him victory if Alan had as much as put a wheel wrong. But of course, Alan is too wily and experienced a race driver to put a wheel wrong, and he didn't. And the impressively reliable Williams brought him home right in the closing stages of the race, passing tail-enders as he went into the last corner. to win the French Grand Prix of 1980 with Pironi's Ligier just 4.4 seconds behind him. Victory in the most historic Grand Prix of them all to Alan Jones. Didier Pironi second, Jacques Lafitte third, Nelson Piquet fourth, René Arnoux fifth, and Carlos Reutemann sixth. A British win for the proud Williams team puts Jones on top in the championship, but only 3 points ahead of Piquet and 5 ahead of Arnoux and Pironi. Alan Jones's day, though, every inch of the way, and with a magnificent form that he's been showing for the whole of 1980, he's